Welcome back, guys. I'm really excited. We got a terrific guest today, somebody I've been waiting to have on for a long time, also Las Vegas local. She is a model, fantastic model. She's a real estate investor. She's a content creator. She's in the top 0.07% of all creators on OF. She has an incredibly interesting story, and I'm really excited to have her on today. It's Brandi Andrews. How you doing today, Brandi?
I'm doing great.
Yes, I'm really excited. So yesterday I was asking you for like a bio, and then you started sending me all these things that had happened. And I knew some of the stories. I knew about the brain aneurysm. I knew about one of your exes being killed. I did not know about the kidnapping. I didn't know about all the other stuff that we talked about. So there's like, and the thing is, Brandi, you understand, like, I'm sure you've probably had a situation where you've told the stories about your life and people are like, that's not true. No, it's all fucking documented. All the stuff that you talked about, which was like mind blowing when I went through all this stuff that happened. So there's a lot here to unpack. If you guys are watching, trust me, you are not going to want to miss this one. So let's go over this. You were born in San Pablo, California.
San Pablo, yeah.
San Pablo, California. And then you guys, why did you relocate to Mississippi? What happened there?
My dad was involved with a lot of people in California. He wasn't very well liked, and he got me in a lot of situations, and it got to a point where they just kind of stepped in, pulled our family inside, and was like, you guys just need to get her out of here for her own safety. So we relocated to Mississippi for 9 months and then to Texas.
This was a function where your dad was involved with like some criminal organizations and had to get away from them?
Correct.
This is Northern California?
Yes.
Okay. And so you go out there, and then your upbringing there, something happened where your father... Okay, you were kidnapped and your father killed people in front of you? Is this what happened?
Well, not in that order, but yeah.
So what happened? Can you describe it?
Okay, so let me start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So my mom had my sister when she was about 16 years old. So obviously she was in high school. My grandparents knew about it. They took custody of her, whatever. Then 4 years later, when she was 20, she had dropped out of high school. She was homeless, doing drugs. My dad was big time drug dealer out there, so he had got her kind of hooked, whatever. And she was living on the streets. When she was 20, she had me, but she didn't tell anyone in my family because they'd already taken my sister, and she's like, I don't want the hassle. So I was living on the streets with my mom till I was about 2 years old. That's not legal. So when it was discovered, they came, got me, gave me to my grandparents. They also took custody of me when I was 2. And then my dad said, no, like, I want to take her. Okay. So he got me after that. I was with him till I was about 4. And he used to take me on drug deals with him all the time. My dad's side of the family is Mexican. So it's not weird for him to be like, we're going to go see your cousin. Like, I thought everybody was my cousin. Right. So he takes me on this drug deal, kind of gone wrong with him. I'd been on a million with him before. So we walked into the house. I'm sitting on the guy's couch, and he had a boxer. I was a little kid, playing with his dog. And I remember he looked at me and said, if you're really good and you stay on the couch and, you behave, then you can have him when you leave. And as a 4-year-old, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm about to get this dog, So I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm sitting here, the kitchen's in front of me, and they go down this hallway to the right into a back room to do whatever it is they're doing. And within a few minutes, I just heard some gunshots go off. There was 4 guys total in the house. So at this point, I have no idea what happened. Yeah. I don't know if my dad's dead or if my dad's the one who shot somebody or, what. So I'm sitting on the couch. I get off the couch. I kind of pull it away from the wall, and I crawl behind it. And I just laid there for, I have no idea how much time went by. And then eventually I felt someone pull the couch away from the wall. And when I looked up, there was a bunch of cops and everything there. So they took me, put me in the back of the cop car. I'm just sitting there just staring at the house waiting to see who comes out. Yeah. My dad and another man come out in handcuffs, and then I see a body bag, and I don't know what happened to the 4th person. And then they took me away. So then my mom had lost custody of me at 2. My dad loses custody of me at 4. And then my grandparents finally get...
Is your dad charged with murder at this point?
I don't know what he was... That my family kept his criminal background a huge secret from me for the most part. I don't know what he was officially charged with. I don't know what he went to prison for, but he did go to prison after that. And then when he was out on bond, I saw him a few more times, and it was just all traumatic experiences. At the time, it wasn't traumatic because I didn't know any different. So I thought, like, this is normal. Yeah. But, he'd get us on the weekends. And at that point, me and my sister were going and seeing him together. And I became very, very close with my sister. She was 4 years older than me. And she was kind of the only comfort and safety I had in my family. So when we would go visit him, and he had to go on drug deals at that point, he learned his lesson not to take us. So he would zip tie us. And again, I didn't know how fucked up this was until later in life when I'm like telling my friends and they're like, bro, that's really fucked up. And I was like, in my mind, like I wasn't being hurt, you know?
Yeah.
So he'd zip tie our wrists and ankles and just put some cartoons on and leave us in the living room to go do what he had to do and then come back and snip us loose.
That's incredible, man. I did the zip tie thing. I did not know about that.
Yeah. I actually learned how to break out of zip ties because of that. Yeah.
Turn them, crack them
So
like that.
you got to put like where the zip tie actually connects. You got to put it at the top of your wrist, hold your hands together, push apart, lift it over your head and crack it over your knee. It doesn't matter how strong you are, but you can break it.
All right, well there we go.
Anyone's ever kidnapped.
First practical piece of information we got here.
And then we would re-zip tie ourselves before we got home, so he didn't know that we knew how to get out.
Oh my God, man, that's incredible. All right, so now in this situation, man, there's so much stuff here. So you obviously in this situation, this is not a tenable family situation. When does CPS get involved and you end up you're not living with your father anymore?
When the shooting happened.
Okay.
So when I was going and visiting him when he was out on bond after that, I was visiting him. He would live with his mom and dad. So I was visiting my other grandparents, but it was his way of seeing me.
Okay, got it. And then that's when you moved to Texas or with your aunt?
No.
Or your grandma?
My grandmother.
Okay.
So after that, I was, I don't know the time frame. I was so young and like my mind's really messed up with memory. But after that, I was playing in my grandparents' front yard and these guys came by and snatched me out of the front yard and threw me in a van, went to some house and just threw me in the living room. I was watching cartoons and I knew I had been kidnapped, but it's not like in the movies, like nothing bad happened. I was just sitting in the living room watching cartoons, but I knew that I wasn't somewhere I was supposed to be and I knew I was in trouble. I knew my grandma didn't know where I had gone. I knew I'd been kidnapped. And so I was in the living room and I remember them making some phone calls to my dad and they let him know that they had me. I guess he had owed them some money, something along the lines of that. And I'll never forget, when they were on the phone, they told me had me and told them they needed the money, like whatever. He just said, he said, do what you got to do. And at that point, I hated my dad because I knew he wasn't coming. Yeah.
You didn't think he was bluffing? You thought he did that before?
I knew he wasn't bluffing.
Okay, you thought that's what it was.
And then after, throughout my life, he did more things that made me realize he wasn't bluffing. But And so my mom at the time was dating this guy. He was part of Hell's Angels. I think she's still with him. And she caught wind of what was going on. She never really got involved in any of my dad's stuff, and she never got involved in my life at all. But when she found out what happened, I was sitting there, and it was same day. I'd only been there for a couple hours, and they came fucking blowing through the front door. They walked to the living room table, and they put a sticky note on the table with an address. I'm pretty sure it was my dad's address. And they handled the guy as they came. They grabbed me, threw me on the back of one of the, well, not the back, but like held me on the front of one of the bikes. And I guess it wasn't that far from my house. And they drove me straight back to my grandparents' house, dropped me off and just left. Never saw him again. Wow.
Okay. That's crazy. And then you also had a situation where when you went to go live with your grandparents, it wasn't that much better.
No. So then at that point, I think that was when there was a lot of like officials at our house all the time. I don't know.
During this time, all right, so maybe you're 4 or 5 years old. Are there any sort of developmental issues that you're having at this point? Like, with school or anything like that? Because I mean, this is an unbelievable amount of trauma to deal with at that age.
Not that I'm aware of, but where I grew up, so I was born in San Pablo, but I was raised in Richmond. So where I grew up, I was minority, and there was a lot of way crazier stuff going on around me at school with my other friends. So like in my mind, like you can't miss what you never had.
Right.
I thought this was normal. Not normal, but I didn't think it was that crazy.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where, like I said, the officials came to our house and was basically like, hey, like, she's not okay. Like, she's in danger just being here. Like, you guys need to consider relocating. My grandpa had a job offer in Texas. We relocated to Mississippi for 9 months and then relocated to Houston, Texas, which is where I grew up. And I was in 3rd or 4th grade once we got there. Okay.
And then the situation with your grandparents, what happened
So my grandma was really hesitant to leave California because my mom's sister, my aunt, she was schizophrenic and she was in the house. I was also raised around that and I had no idea what that was. No one really did back then.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't take her medications, thing like that. So my grandma thought, well, when we leave, something bad's going to happen to her. I can't leave her. Well, she basically had to make a decision between me and her. So she left my aunt there with, my mom and her boyfriend. They assured like, she's safe. We got her. And I think we were still in Mississippi. So it only had been a few months after we left and she ended up killing herself. So, my grandma immediately blamed me for that. You know, she had to get on antidepressants. On top of that, she was a big wino. So those two mixtures wasn't good. And then she became really, really just like.
Your grandmother, who's an adult, is blaming you for someone else committing suicide? That's crazy.
Think she just had a hard time accepting what happened. She knew that she had to make a decision for my safety. She moved for my safety. And then when she did, she already had a bad feeling leaving her daughter. And when she did, something bad happened. And I think that was just her way of dealing with it. And I don't blame her for that. But she was very upset and was just, and she looked at me the second she got the phone call and it happened. She said, you know, this is your fault, right? And I was 8 years old and, no, maybe I was 6. My time frame is so messed up. I was young, but I'll never forget it. And I felt terrible. And, she got back on back on her antidepressants, started drinking. And then when she came back, it was just, she really let out a lot of her anger and problems on me.
Is this grandma related to your father or your mother?
Mother.
Okay. I mean, the reason why I'm asking is because it feels like that is maybe it's a symptom of grief or PTSD, but it also sounds like somebody's a narcissist, you know, saying something like that to a child that is like so out of bounds for normal psychological behavior to blame a 6-year-old child for someone to commit suicide. And I'm not saying I'm obviously.
She meant like she knew if she left her daughter that something bad was probably going to happen, and she meant we had to leave because of me. Yeah. So she was saying like, this is
it doesn't matter. Like for her to put that on you is like incredibly irresponsible.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm saying it's like sometimes the reason why I bring this up. This is a podcast about human evolution and genetics, and like sometimes you know a lot of people don't realize that you know Marilyn Monroe suffered from schizophrenia and certain medical disorders. And so psychosis, and then her mother did, and her grandmother did also. And you know, we didn't understand what those things meant back then, or we didn't understand that they were genetic. Like for instance, people understand that eye color, height, and hair color are genetic. They have no question about that. You have 2 Hispanic people have a child, and the child's going to come out looking Hispanic. But what people have a hard time believing that in like mental illness or the idea that intelligence is heritable, they have a hard time with that. They're like, no, my baby's going to go to this preschool and he's going to be a genius. And it's like, no, because you and your husband aren't geniuses. That's probably not going to happen. Right. So it's one of these things where we talk about genetics. And the reason why I asked that is because you've mentioned multiple family members that are like displaying type B personality disorders. And that's why I'm asking because you seem well adjusted. I remember the first time, just how you and I met. We were sitting on the bus coming from Sangster Airport in Montego Bay, and we were driving all the way to Negril, and I sat next to you, and you reminded me of your personality is very similar to some of my closest friends, like CJ Sparks and Kindly and stuff like that. So we got along very like immediately. And listening to you talk, you're definitely an empathetic person. You're obviously not a psychopath. I could tell immediately from talking to you. And so that's why I'm asking this question, because you do seem for what you've gone through, girl, you are incredibly well adjusted. You are like it's unbelievable. So that's why I was asking the question, because man, that's a lot to unpack. And you said you've worked on this in therapy, right?
Not in therapy. No. I've done therapy, but that's not what helped me. No, I don't believe in. For me personally, I mean, anybody else it's working for, good for them. But no, I've learned that.
Is meditation? What is it?
Yeah, 100%. So it's crazy. I actually started getting into Dr. Joe Dispenza. Okay. And the more I was learning, and he's talking about thoughts and emotions, creating a reality and all this stuff. And then it's like when I was going into therapy, I was thinking and feeling all of my past traumas, and I was leaving there feeling like shit, and I was feeling worse. And then and so I'm like, okay, if thoughts and emotions are what attracts something to you, why am I going to therapy and thinking and feeling these things every single fucking week? Like it was killing me. And then at the end of last year, I got extremely suicidal, and I've never been like that in my entire life, and I was not okay. So then this year, around February, I started reading his books, and then I actually went to his retreat in June. Wow. I mean, like as soon as I read his book, I steamrolled through 5 of them in like weeks. Yeah. And then in his books, he talks about his students and things like that. And I was like, I want to be a student. And I got on one of his retreats like immediately, and I just started working on myself. And meditation's 100% is what helped me.
Have you read The Power of Now?
No, I have not.
Eckhart Tolle? No. That was a book. My father was killed by a drunk driver, and like the same year, my girlfriend leaves me when I'm deployed over the Middle East. It's not her fault. Like I don't blame her. I was really upset at the time, but like I was deployed to the Middle East. I get it. You know what I'm saying? And that happened, all around the same time. And I know this is not nearly as big of a deal, but it's the same week that the Mavericks end up losing in the NBA Finals to the Heat, and I'm just like, I'm just like looking at like, you know, like right after my dad dies, right?
Right.
My favorite basketball team loses in the NBA final. It was just like it just seemed like the world was coming down on me. And that was the first time I can say I was suffering from depression. And, you know, I was a first lieutenant in the Air Force. And I found that book, and it changed my life. And then later on, a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, which
I've read that.
Yeah, you've read that?
Yeah.
About we get to choose what we care about, right? So that's like the most important thing, because I have a feeling, and I don't know this personally, but I have a feeling that like there are things that other influencers you deal with can't handle that you can handle pretty easily because of previous tribulations you've gone through.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I would not change my past if I had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Not one bit. I came out a way better person because of it, and I can like nothing's a big deal anymore.
Right.
And I like that though, because now my life is kosher. Like it's so like my house could be on fire, everything could be falling apart, and I'm just sitting there. Like, I'll laugh about it, and I'll be like, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, talking about this, like, so you do have you have two children. Your first baby's daddy, you meet him at this point, like when you're in Texas.
Yeah. So again, I was raised in Houston. Growing up, I would say between the ages of 8 and 14, I experienced horrific abuse, mentally, verbally, physically, all kinds of ways from my grandmother. She really resented me for what happened to her daughter. And then, you know, when I was in high school, I think it was like right when I turned 14, my grandpa got a job offer in China. And he was probably like the only person in my family I felt even semi-safe or comfortable around. And then he had to move to China.
Wow.
And now it was just me and my grandmother in this house. My sister at this point, she had been, you know, experiencing her own stuff with my grandmother as well. And she had bailed out of house when she was 16, went to go live with her friends that were older. And so she was gone. It was just me and my grandma. And it was the worst time of my fucking life. And so I was just always gone. I was always at my friend's house. I was never home. I was trying to just never be there as much as I could. And then, yeah, when I was about 14, my sister hit me up because the abuse I was experiencing at home got public. It got to the point where my school was getting involved, things like that, because I was coming to school really messed up. I was missing events, and they knew why. Cops were getting called to my house all the time. So my sister caught wind of it, and I hadn't seen her since she left when she was 16. And she came back around. She had left a note in my mailbox, and she said, you know, like, I've got a place. Me and my boyfriend live together. If you need to get out, like, come stay with me. Just pack your shit and come stay. And I was kind of hesitant because I was bitter that she left me and I hadn't seen her in 4 years. So I was just kind of gypsying my way around. So I had a lot of like best friends growing up in high school. And I went and lived with a friend Cody for a while. I was living with Mike for a while. I was Chris, Marcus. I was living with a lot of my guy friends that I grew up with. And you got to think in high school, like, there's no sleepovers on school nights, and, you know, well-rounded families had these rules. So when I could go stay at one of my guy friends' houses for months and like basically live with them, and their parents didn't care, I was probably not in a much better environment or situation than I was already in. So I was kind of leaving one toxic environment for another. Sure. But it was okay because it wasn't happening to me. So I was experiencing, and I thought that, again, I'm like around all these people in these dysfunctional houses, and I'm like, this is normal. So then eventually I go live with my sister. She worked in the bars. So I was in the bar industry at a very young age. I start bouncing around with friends. I'm living with this guy, Chris, and he was best friends with my first baby daddy. So that's how we met. And at this point, fast forward to like I'm 2021.
So you've known this guy for 5 years at this point?
No. Okay. This is like me living with different friends, living with my sister. And now I'm living with this guy and I meet him. I meet him when I'm like 2021. Okay. And we're as spring break in South Padre. Guys,
if you guys don't know about that, if you grew up in Texas, man, we would go to South Padre Island, bro, and it was if you ever see those ratchet as shit, bro. Girls Gone Wild. Like, Destin, Florida has nothing on the disgusting nature of South Padre Island, bro. Their disease is still floating in the fucking.
I didn't know you knew about
South. Girl, I'm from East Dallas. Of course, I am a Texas Longhorn. Of course, I know about South Padre Island. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah, you guys met.
So much more embarrassing that you know about it. And we were hanging out, you know, it was whatever. And we get back. At this point, like, I had never done or touched drugs in my life. I never drank. I was a huge weed smoker, and that was about it. I didn't do anything. So we go there, and I start, you know, dabbling with coke and other things. And
wait, so you just so I understand, from the time you're 15 to the time you're 20, you're just living with friends.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and my sister.
And did you finish high school? Did you get a GED or something? Okay.
No, I finished high
school. You finished high school.
Yeah.
What high school did you go to?
Klein Collins.
Okay. In Houston.
Spring, Texas.
Okay,
yeah.
got it. Okay. And so you come out of there, and then this is 2 years after you graduate from high school, still hanging out with friends. This is when you meet your dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And then you guys are partying in South Padre and like you do.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like I said, I had never touched drugs before, and I started dabbling in and out there, and I went from 0 to 100 real quick. I was doing everything, and he was my main source. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like no other. Like I remember in our relationship, I would be sleeping, and he would wake me up with like a fucking line of Coke, couple pills, Red Bull, and some peanut M&Ms, and that was my fucking meal for the day.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't understand contextually. So from probably, early 90s to like 2010, even to this point now, this is South Texas. So you guys know what south of South Texas, Mexico. Like you guys think other cities have drug problems. You have no idea what it's like. People like it is so easy to procure drugs when you like live in Miami, Houston, or Phoenix, or even San Diego, because those cities, that's where they're getting, this stuff's getting sent through. Mm-hmm. There was a crack epidemic in like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Dallas, Houston.
Oh, well, when I was in high school, that was when the hurricane hit Louisiana, and everybody from New Orleans came to our high school.
So a lot of people don't understand this. When Katrina happens in 2003, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Is that right? So what happens is Baton Rouge becomes the murder capital of the United States because there's so many people who move from New Orleans to Baton Rouge.
And Houston.
And Oklahoma City and Shreveport and Dallas. And so you started seeing an uptick in gang violence because these guys who had blocks in New Orleans were coming to Dallas or San Antonio or Houston, and you saw a massive uptick in crime during that period in 2003.
All my friends were getting murdered. But you got to think, I came from Richmond, California to Houston, Texas. Again, this is all I know.
Yeah.
So like I don't know that this is not normal.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, all my friends were being murdered, raped. Like it was very common.
Yeah, yeah. This is kind of like the Paul Wall, DJ Screw.
Grew up with them.
Slim
Thug.
Yeah, Slim Thug, UGK
Zero.
era of Houston rap music, and that's part of where that whole culture came from. All right, so now this happens, and you meet this dude, and then you're 20. This guy's enabling you, and
our relationship lasted 5 months. It was just he was a stripper. He was a stripper, and I worked at an after-hours spot at the time, and so he would come in and see me. And like I said, he was friends with my group of friends, and no one thought anything of it. We were just hooking up at the time, and then it became like a little more serious dating, if that's what you even want to call it.
Yeah.
And my friends were always like telling me too. They're like, dude, like this guy keeps you on drugs. Like if you were not on drugs, you would not even be messing with him. Like, what are you doing?
Do you recognize that now when you see it in other people?
Yes.
Because I that was a problem for me growing up in Texas during that time. Now in 2003, I'm managing a strip club at that point, and I see the same thing where there are girls that are like, these guys are so far beneath these women, but these girls are like strung out, and it's a common thing that I saw happen over and over. I've never tried cocaine. I've never smoked marijuana. I've never been drunk. So like for me, it was just a very different reality, but I saw it all the time, and you can see it in other people.
Yeah, I mean, you had a clear perspective, though. I did not. I was, like I said, if I started, and I can see it now, too, because when I would start to sober up, I would lose interest, and I would kind of start to distance myself from him, and that's when he would come in and, like, load me up again, and then I was all about him, and, like, I kind of think I saw it at the time, too. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And so I was just, in my mind, I'm 21. This is what 21-year-olds do. I'm having fun. Like, it's not a big deal. I didn't realize I had a problem.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I wasn't just, doing a line of blow or something in the bathroom when I was drunk. I was waking up doing blow. I was painkillers. I was taking, oh my God, when I went to the hospital. So he gets arrested. We had an incident in a hotel. Like I said, 5 month thing. We had an incident in a hotel where the cops were called. He'd beaten the shit out of me and was trying to like strangle me with the phone cord. It was like this whole thing.
Yeah.
The lady at the front desk, I guess, had seen our altercation in the lobby before we got to our room and had already called the cops. So thankfully she did that because they got to the room like right when things were getting pretty bad. They got me out of there. I don't even really remember that night. I just remember waking up. My friend had came and got me, and he was in jail. And so when he finally went to jail, I was like, I'm getting sober. Like I'm done partying. I'm gonna get back on my shit, And like my bills were paid. I was fine. I didn't think I had a problem. So I'll never forget. I went to bed that night, and I where you fall asleep in the middle of the day and you wake up, it's dark outside and you don't know what happened. I had been asleep for 16 hours.
Yeah.
And I woke up sweating, like so bad. I was drenched. I was like, what the hell? Wash the bed sheets, take a shower, go to sleep. Same thing again next day. And each time I was waking up, I was feeling weaker and weaker. And I was like, oh my God, I have the flu. And I could barely drive myself to the hospital. So I finally get to the hospital. I tell him I think I have the flu. They run these tests on me, and the doctor comes in with a clipboard. He says, I need you to circle every drug that you've done in the last 30 days. And so I'm circling everything. I'm writing things on there they didn't even have, all this stuff. And he comes back in, he says, no. And he's tapping. He says, I think you forgot one. I'm like, bro, I've circled everything on there. What do you need? He's tapping on heroin. I said, I've never done heroin a day in my life. I don't even know what it looks like. Like I didn't do it.
Did you try MDMA and maybe it was cut with heroin?
Nope. No? So he says, okay, well, you wrote on here that you're taking prescription painkillers. Like how many are you taking a day? Yeah. I said 20, 30 if I want to get fucked up.
God damn.
And he just, his jaw drops the entire stuff. Everyone's looking at me like, and I didn't think anything of it, and he says, okay, well, you have so many opiates in your system that you are failing for heroin. Like they had to put me on Suboxone to get me off. Like it was crazy. And I didn't think I had a problem. I was like, I'm just partying. I'm 21.
You guys want to know something crazy? Do you know, I don't know if you know this, George, do you know where we get a lot of opium, like illegal heroin in this country? Do you know where we get it from?
Illegal heroin?
Illegal heroin. Do you know where a lot of it's grown?
I do not.
Illegal Poppyfields in Afghanistan. Do you know where we get the opioids for the painkillers that we sell in this country? Anybody want to guess?
Afghanistan.
The Poppyfields in Afghanistan. It's the same. It's the same Poppyfields. That is the #1 export out of that country. And a lot of people don't realize they think that there's this massive difference when they get Oxycontin or when they're taking heroin. No, we're just a couple molecules off. This is the reason why some of these pharmaceutical companies were sued for billions of dollars.
Well, what people don't realize nowadays too is back then, and especially in Houston, there used to be strip malls with these stores, and it would say pain and back doctor.
Yeah.
And you would walk in and say my back hurts, and they'd write you a script, and then you'd go a street over and say, hey, my back hurts, and they'd write you a script, and it was always for painkillers, and they'd always combine it with like somas.
Yeah.
And you could literally just hit up 5 a day, and they had no idea, nor did they care. Nowadays, you can't get painkillers if your life needed it, but it was so accessible.
Got that purple drink with the promethazine in it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the thing. When you said that, my first thought was, so what happens is your body normally produces painkillers, opioids. Your body normally does that. Just like if you continually take steroids, your body stops producing testosterone. If you start taking exogenous steroids, your body stops producing testosterone. If you start taking opioids internally, exogenous opioids, your body will stop producing opioids. When you come off of the heroin or the painkillers, your body doesn't know what to do, right? It's just like if you ever seen a guy get off roids, he gets very weak after a while because his body's not producing testosterone normally, and it takes a while for his body to catch up. But it's not that painful. What you went through would have been incredibly painful because your body had no ability to fight its own like individual pains. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And now, I mean, they have it all on record. When I go to the doctor now, I'm not allowed to be prescribed painkillers because of it. So and the doctor explained to me, he said, if you wouldn't have came into the hospital, eventually you would just went to sleep and not woken up with what you were experiencing.
Yeah.
And then that's when I realized like, maybe I had a little bit of a problem. And so then I'm just like, all right, well, I'm done. Like the Suboxone's going to get me clean. I'm good. And I literally just made the decision to get sober, and I didn't go to rehab. I did nothing.
Yeah. And
so fast forward like 4 months, and this is crazy because I didn't know this was possible, but 4 months goes along. Weird signs are happening. Some girl made a comment about you're probably pregnant. So I stopped at Walgreens. I got 2 boxes of pregnancy tests. I didn't know there's 3 in each. So I had like 6.
So you're still seeing this dude after you get clean?
No, he's in jail, and he gets out, and we just are not talking to each other.
So this is the end of the 5 months period. You get pregnant by him and then find out about it afterwards.
This is 4 months after now.
Okay.
So we hadn't spoken or been cool with each other for a few months. And she made a comment about me being pregnant. I'm like, that's impossible because I'm not having sex. Can't get pregnant. And I hadn't been with anybody. And so I just grabbed a vitamin water, 2 packs of, 6 pregnancy tests, and I go home and I streamline piss on all of them, like just knocking them out. Because I remember she was like, get the ones that say pregnant or not pregnant, not the ones with the lines.
Yeah.
So I get them, and it's just pregnant. One said error. And I was like, oh, error. I was in such denial. Drive myself immediately to Planned Parenthood. And I'm like, hey, like I call my best friend Chris at the time, huge stoner. And he's like, oh, I was watching the show on National Geographic and I've heard like you can eat something and it'll say you're pregnant when you're not pregnant. You probably just ate something bad. So I'm like, yeah, that's it. So I go to Planned Parenthood. I get there and they're like, no, never take the electronic ones. Always do the ones with 2 lines. So they pregnancy test me and she's like, oh yeah, you're real pregnant. I said, what do you mean real pregnant? She's like, the faster the lines show up, the more further along you are.
Yeah.
Did not know that. And so I'm like, no, I told her, I said, I watched this thing on National Geographic. So I think I ate something bad. And she's looking at me like shaking her head. And then I'm like, can you draw my blood? And she's like, why? And then she's rolling her eyes. She's getting upset with me. She walks out and she comes back in with a packet I'll never forget. And it's got this stork on the front. It's carrying a baby. It says, congratulations, you're a mom. And then I flip the next page and it's a list of abortion clinics.
Wow.
She didn't say anything to me. She just saw how in denial I was, threw that at me and told me have a nice day. And she said, you need to figure out real quick because you're about 4 months along. And I was like, oh my God.
I believe the state of Texas at that time, your 3rd trimester, you cannot have an abortion. Is that correct?
I had friends that were having abortions at 8 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, I'm in shock at this point, right?
Okay.
So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm calling all my friends and it was just the worst experience ever. Like I'm calling my friends like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And obviously no one's going to congratulate me, but just like the depressing like tones on the other end of them being like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Well, like if you need to get abortion, I'm here for you. Like I'll go with you to the clinic. Like this is that. I'm like, fuck, man. So I hadn't seen my grandma in forever and I don't even know why. I guess it's because it was the only family I had. I drive to her house and she's sitting there and I walk into her office. I haven't seen her in forever. I'll never forget. She's sitting in her chair on the computer, doesn't even turn around to say hi to me. And I was like, hey, I have to tell you something. And she says, let me guess, you're pregnant. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, was it an accident? And I said, yeah. And she goes, then treat it like one. And that was all she said. And I just got up and walked out of her house. I was like, man, fuck this. And, I had friends who got pregnant in high school at 15, 16, and they were doing good. And I was like, if they can do it, like I can do it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not, anybody who's had an abortion, it's not nothing against them, but I was just like, it's not for me. And like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I had the kid. I immediately hit up the dad, Philip, and I said, hey, and I told him, and he basically said, either get an abortion or never talk to me again. I was like, well, I wasn't planning on talking to you ever again anyways. So just being nice, letting you know.
Yeah.
So there was the end of that. My best friend, Lexi, who I grew up with since I was like 14, her mom did a lot of raising me as well as her. And her mom actually ran into me at Planned Parenthood. She'd just gotten out of rehab. And she's like, what are you doing here? Like, come live with me. I'm sober now. Like, this will be great. I'll help you out.
Yeah.
And it was the only help I had. So I go and I start living with my best friend's mom from high school. She's helping me with the kid. I have him. He's beautiful, healthy. Thank God he was healthy because I had been doing all those drugs when I was pregnant with him. I didn't even know. And healthy, beautiful baby comes out and her mom's helping me. I was working at Hooters at the time and it was right down the street. So her mom would watch him for me while I go to work. I had her and Lexi helping me and I don't know what I would have done without them. I'm at work one day and someone sends me a text message and says, oh my God, I'm so glad Philip decided to step up and be a dad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they sent me a picture of him holding our son. And I was like, this is Photoshop. Like, what the fuck happened? So I call Lexi because she's my only friend at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, like, did you see this photo? Like this picture, what happened? Like, and I'm asking her because I'm dumbfounded and she thinks I caught on. And she says, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't know how to tell you, but we've been dating for 3 months.
Oh my God.
So the whole time I was going to work.
Oh my God.
He was going to my mom and best friend's house to see the kid because they had been dating. And I'm like, I wasn't even expecting that answer. I was expecting her to be like, oh my God, girl, that's crazy. But they were dating. And so I'm like, the fuck, And I get off work. I'm kind of shocked. Like I'm going to the house to try to figure out how I'm going to deal with this. All my shit's in the front yard. Because she was so terrified, I guess, of how I was going to react. And I'm like the most level-headed, I'm the most understanding person ever.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think it would have ended that badly. But then they threw my shit out, all this stuff, and I'm just like, call my only other friend I have. I'm like, hey, like, never guess what's gonna happen. It's my best
so
friend.
let me ask you, like, listen, whoever's dating my ex right now, have good luck to you. Godspeed. I wouldn't be mad at them. Were you mad at this girl?
No, and that's the thing. The thing
that's
like I
my first
wasn't
thought.
mad she was dating him. I'm mad that she didn't have the respect enough to tell me and ask me. And it's not even the dating. It's the fact that you took something from me that I'll never get back, and you introduced my son to his dad for the very first time in his life.
Yes.
They had pictures under a fucking Christmas tree together like a little family. Like, she did all this. She took that from me. That's
Yeah.
what I was mad about.
That makes sense.
And it wasn't something I couldn't have talked out with her, but then her reaction of like avoiding me and throwing my shit out, and like she was terrified of me. And just the way she handled it after the fact, like there was a lot of things I was mad about that had nothing to do with dating him. I don't give a fuck if you want to date him, like ruin your life too. I don't care. I already, you know what I mean? Like whatever. But I don't even think I would have been mad about that. I was mad that she took my son around him. They were sharing all these experiences and things together, and she took that from me.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
I'd never heard this story. That's mind blowing. It gets even more mind blowing.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know who Philip is, her baby's daddy, it is the same individual who was caught and charged with a misdemeanor for having sex in the high roller. If you guys remember the story about the couple that had sex inside the high roller, that guy had actually broken up with his girlfriend.
No, he didn't.
He got in a fight. He didn't break up with her, but he got in a fight with her.
They were there to get married, actually.
Right. They were there to get married, but then he went and had sex with some other girl that he met from New York. They had sex, and the security could see it, told him to stop. They didn't stop, came down. He was then charged with a misdemeanor, and then it became like a huge news story. And that was the same Philip that you had the kid with.
Yeah.
And then what happens after that?
So he was actually there. He was going to do a shotgun wedding with this new girl he was dating.
Yeah.
And they're there. They get in a fight in a hotel. He does, what you described. So then he gets back home. Me and him love him to death. I mean, we had our shit, but he gets back home, and I think what really bothered her the most was the interviews after the fact. Like, he had no shame that he did it. He was not remorseful.
No, he was not. I saw the interviews. Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he was, though. And, you just got to accept him for who he is. And she did not like that. She worked at a strip club, and he also had a pretty bad, man, as much as I was like, when I have this kid, he's not going to live the life I live. Now that I'm talking about it, like, his dad put him in a situation like my dad did, and history repeated itself as much as I tried for it not to. So he's doing these interviews. Yeah, you did see the interviews. Yeah. Okay. So he was not remorseful. This was kind of like getting under her skin, and she was not a stable person. She was probably a psychopath.
I mean, he was kind of proud of it.
Yeah.
Watching the interviews. Yeah.
He didn't care about anybody but himself, and he was getting clout from it, and he was excited.
Yeah.
So he's boasting, bragging about it. She gets upset. She obviously is plotting some stuff on him. She was a stripper at a club in Houston, and she had some guys that worked there. He also had a lot of bad blood around the city. He had done some things I probably can't talk about, but he had screwed over a lot of people, owed people money, dealt people bad drugs, put people in really terrible positions.
You think she set him up?
I know she did.
Oh God. Okay.
She's admitted it to this day,
All right, cool.
at this point finally. But it was a whole it wasn't just her. It was her upset, and then other people that he had wronged reaching out to each other, being like, you know what, fuck this guy. And it was a group effort. But at the time, I had no idea that any of this was going on. And so the two guys that killed him was the shoe shiner and the bar back at the strip club she worked at.
Yeah.
So she calls him. I guess he had done an interview and gotten like a check for like $4,000, which again, we grew up, that's a lot of money to us back then. So he's trying to find drugs, hits up his girl. She's like, yeah, I got these two guys. They're going to take us to a hotel, and we're going to go get the drugs. Bring all the cash you have on you, because she couldn't pay them for this hit. So he pulls up in her car. She gets in the passenger seat. The two guys get in the back seat. They're headed to go get these drugs, supposedly. The guy behind him just pulls out his gun and shoots him in the face, I think 7 times. Gets out of the car, dumps his body, tells her to get out, take her car, drive it to Dallas, and they got caught in Dallas.
That's crazy. So the girl that the fiance, the same fiance that he cheats on in the high roller, is the one who sets him up to get murdered 3 years later in Houston.
Correct. She, like I said, it took a while, but she went crazy apparently after, and she was just going around telling people that she did, and she played a part in it. We all knew. Did you have a close relationship with him at that? Did you guys ever try to get back together or anything like that happened during your son's life? No. So I cleaned up my life after that.
Yeah.
When I had my kid, he's what kept me sober. I got sober on my own. My son kept me sober. That kid saved my life because if it was not for my son, I would have relapsed and I probably would have been running around with his dad doing the same shit and I would have been in that car. You know what I mean? Like there's so many other ways it could have played out, but he had these episodes like every drug addict does where he's like, I want to clean up my life. I want to get sober. I want to see my kid. I want to be part of your family. Like, you know, whatever. Like, I want us all together. And I said, you can see him, but I have no interest in getting back with you. And he'd always give me these ultimatums. Like, well, I'm not going to see my kid unless you get back with me and we're all together. And I was like, well, I guess you're not seeing your kid because I'm not going to put him through that. So yeah. And then he proposed to me actually in my friend's driveway, the one that he got with when he was little. Ended up moving back in with her mom at some point, and he like proposed to me in the driveway while his girlfriend's calling him on his phone. It was really chaotic. I was just like, no, but I kept in touch with him, and I did talk to him right before this happened. And yeah, so when it happened, I was living in Scottsdale at the time, dating a different guy though, and I remember when I first heard about it, I was actually on my way to work and someone called me. I don't know if I was in shock or I just wasn't surprised, but I was just on my way to work and my friend called and she's like, oh my God, you hear what happened to Philip? And I was like, no. And when I was doing my makeup, getting ready for work, someone sent me a text. It was from like a Google number and it was like, congratulations, you got what you wanted. Philip was murdered. And I was like, this can't be real. So get in my car, drive to work. Then my phone starts blowing up and I'm just like, everyone's like, yeah, Philip's dead. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, well, I'm not really surprised. And I go to work and then I didn't know what happened. So then all of a sudden I thought it was like not my problem. Then fast forward 2 days later, I'm getting sent all of these articles. I'm getting blown up. There's like news people, paparazzi, like all these people outside of my job trying to talk to me. And I'm like, what is going on? And I had to hire an attorney and stuff. They had leaked. No one knew he was the baby daddy. His name's not on the birth certificate. He wasn't there. My son has my last name. I completely dissociated ourselves with him. We get there and the news is reaching out to me saying, you know, we want to talk to you about Philip's death, this, that. I'm like, huh? And I go home and there's all these articles now all over the news with my face blasted. My son's face was on some of them, which is illegal. And then some blurred him out. My first and last legal name, which I don't use, all this information. And I called an attorney. I got it all taken down, thankfully. But I guess one of his ex-girlfriends wanted her 15 minutes of fame for the whole murder. And at this point, we still don't know why he was murdered. And I'm like, at what fucking point do you guys think this is a good idea that my son's dad was just murdered and now you're blasting our faces and our names all over the internet? Like, what are you thinking? Like, we don't know if we're in danger. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So then Houston's a closed community and I know some shady people out there. So I made some phone calls and then they're like, no, you're good. It was over this, that. And I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. Like, we're all good. The guys that did it, I think the guy who actually shot him served 3 months. The other guy in the car served nothing. And
because they said it was self-defense or something like that. That's what his attorney said, that it was self-defense. I read the court documents afterwards.
They said they didn't feel safe in the car and they didn't know where they were going.
Okay.
But no, this was a whole, like, this is all, like I said, I don't know how the court stuff worked out because I was not involved in that and all. I just know, like, from the community that I know in Houston, what I was told was that she and some of people that he had wronged had set it up. I can comfortably say she did it because she admits to it now. And then, you know, the guy that shot him served 3 months. The guy in the car with him served no time and she served no time.
Was he armed?
My baby daddy?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. That is a crazy turn of events if he was not armed and he served 3 months for shooting a guy in the face 6 times. That's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, you can look all this stuff up. I mean, this is the part where like a lot of people are like, oh no, Brandi, you're making this up. No, guys, feel free. You can look at all these articles up. They are all quite public. But like, here's the thing. So afterwards, you go to Scottsdale, right? Mm-hmm. To get away. Here's the thing. We don't have to relive all this if you don't want to. But my question is this: like, do you see patterns at this point, right? Like Brandi, you're my friend. Like when I hear this stuff, like when I hear about a dude hitting you, I want to hit him back. Like that's my initial reaction to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But like the thing is, then there's also the questions like, is there something in your past that would make you want to be around somebody like this? Is this a question you ever ask yourself?
Yeah. So, and this is something I actually learned through. This was through therapy. So I guess there are some pros. You know, she told me I had to stop associating violence with love.
Yes.
And this 100% plays a part in how I was raised. My dad was very physically abusive. My grandmother was very physically abusive. A lot of people in my life were very physically abusive. And in a lot of relationships, including the one I think you're leading up to that was physically abusive, there's this mind fuck that they tell you, and I've heard it so many times growing up, and they're like, well, if I wouldn't do it if I didn't care.
Yeah.
The fact that you
hits
can get this reaction from me means I love you that much or I care that much. And I honestly believed that for the longest time. So yeah, I mean, I 100% associated violence with love. Like I thought if you weren't doing stuff like that, then you didn't care about me.
I have a friend. She was consistently cheated on by her boyfriend, and she confused, her wires got crossed where she started to confuse him cheating on her with him being a high value male. And I've seen the same thing where a woman is like, oh, he hits me because he loves me, right? They get confused.
And for someone who's never experienced this, it sounds so obvious and so crazy. And they're like, how did you not see it? Like nobody understands unless they've experienced it, the mental rewiring and just psychology behind somebody who has been with somebody who's physically abusive, narcissist. Like it is a mind fuck. And that's the only word I can think of to describe it. And you don't know a difference.
Let me give you an example of an endemic example of what she's talking about. So during the O.J. Simpson trial, Marsha Clark, what happened was they actually did some mock trials in Phoenix, ironically, and they were surveying African American women, and they were asking them, what do you think the probability, or how many of you feel that it's appropriate to have some physical violence in a marriage? And 65% of the African American women said that some spousal abuse or physical violence was acceptable. And then they put 9 African American women on the jury and then tried to paint O.J. Simpson as a wife beater, and it didn't work. He was acquitted specifically because of that reason. There are certain communities where people believe that, like, you know, eventually at some point someone's going to hit someone else. And if you go back in the 1940s and 1950s, it was pretty common. And if you go back and read legal statutes in like some southern states, there's no penalty for hitting your wife. So this idea of like, whereas now, you know, hopefully most of us are understanding, I would imagine most of us are understanding, you know, as a U.S. military officer, if I hit a woman for any reason, I'm getting an Article 15. It doesn't matter if she's enlisted an officer or for any reason, if I hit a woman, I'm getting a felony conviction for that, right? And so this is one of these situations where, like, there are certain societies where people still think that this is acceptable. Your girl gets out of line, so I need to smack her. No, that is not acceptable. And so one of the things that happens is, like, you get into these situations where people are like, oh man, I can't believe anyone would stick around for that. Well, if that's the type of love, you know, like you said before, like, you know, confusing violence with love. Here's the other thing, just a completely side point. When people say words are violence, to me, I have a big problem with that. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. I think it's demeaning whenever people who are progressive start saying that words. I think it's demeaning to people who have suffered from sexual trauma or physical abuse, anyone who's been mugged or fought in a war and suffering from PTSD. Violence is violence. Words are not violence. And so when you see stuff like this is a completely different situation, and one that, like, you have to be, man, it's incredible what humans can get used to. Right.
Well, you start to find comfort in chaos.
Yes.
Like if there isn't that violence, if there isn't that chaos, you're almost like, well, they don't care. And then you start trying to get a reaction out of them, and you almost start initiating things like that on yourself in healthy relationships because you're not getting what you're used to, and it's making you not feel loved.
I think you may be alluding to this, but I've been in relationships not relationships, I've dated girls before that have been used to that type of violence, and then they start to try to provoke something with me, and I just walk away.
They don't realize they're doing it, though.
Yeah.
I hope you know that.
Yeah,
because
no, I know. Yeah.
I didn't even realize this until probably last year.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh my God, like I was in healthy relationships that didn't last because there was not that chaos, there was not that violence, there was not any of those things, and I wasn't feeling loved. I wasn't.
You're skipping ahead because that's exactly what the next thing I was going to get to you after we talked about David. So you're in Scottsdale or you're in Phoenix and you meet someone else, and can you describe?
Oh, this was actually before.
Okay, go ahead. What happened there?
David was right after Baby Daddy.
Okay.
Immediately after.
And what happened there? This is the individual got his throat slit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened in that situation?
I don't know if I get okay. I'm trying to think about how to what I'm allowed to say, because this situation was not handled legally properly. So I met David online. He was living in Austin. I was living in Houston. He moved to Houston with me for a few months. I ended up moving to Austin with him. I was ready to get away from Houston. So I moved to Austin. It's still close enough where like I got my comfort zone, my
Yeah, I'm
friends,
from
whatever.
Austin. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah. So it's like a 2.5 hour drive, and all of like my brothers, not blood, but guys that raised me, you know, and they taught me really well. They're very, very protective over me.
Sure.
And so I was close enough if I ever needed them. They were there, but I was also far enough away to where like I'm going to start a new life with my kid and this guy now. He was an avid IV meth user. I was unaware because he was so good at it. If you looked at him, you would have no idea this dude was on meth. He looked super healthy, worked out, like, you know, fit, tall, ate, slept normal. Like there was no signs of it.
Yeah.
And then there are little things looking back now. Like I remember there was like bent spoons I was finding in the drawers when I was washing them, and that like it didn't register in my head like why my spoon was bent. Like you wouldn't think that. And then there was DVD cases I kept in my house, and my son used to like always pop them open and play with the disc, and he popped one open and there was a needle in it one time.
Yeah.
I knew he'd done steroids, so I didn't think anything of it, but I was like, why is it in there? And then there was these towels, you know, I pulled one down, loaded. So then that's when I realized, because it was still loaded, and I was like, that's not steroids. And that's not the kind of needle he uses.
Yeah, I used to manage a strip club, and sometimes we'd have to take what's it called, bolt cutters, and unlock the bolts and we'd find it'd be like I remember opening up Finding Nemo one time, the DVD, and there's a bunch of cocaine in there.
Yeah, so he would hide it, he would stash them places, and what he was doing was he was waiting till I fell asleep. He was pretending to be asleep, and then I would fall asleep, and then he'd get up and just go sit in the bathroom. He would take like 50 baths a day. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but he would take 50 baths a day, and he would just go in the bathroom, lock himself in there, and I think he's just taking a bath, and he's just getting loaded and doing his thing in there. And so I had no idea, and he was a very jealous, possessive, which I, again, at the time being damaged, thought these were all like great qualities.
Right.
I'm like, oh, he's possessive, he's controlling, like a little jealousy, like you like that, it makes you feel wanted.
Yeah.
And so I worked at this bar downtown, and I was seeing my friend Morgan at work. She was my best friend at the time. She was one of, I guess everyone kind of knew, but knew the most that I had a very abusive relationship. So she was always concerned about me. We went to go see her at work. She was bartending by herself. It was just her, he, and I at the bar, and it was an empty bar. And you know those punching bag games that you hit and the numbers go up? So we're sitting there and we're just hanging out, drinking, middle of the day. It was evening. And these guys walk in. And they're hitting the bag and playing the game. And I'm sitting in the bar and I'm just watching them because there's nothing else going on in the fucking place. And
What city is this in?
Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And I'm watching, and you know, he starts to get jealous, and he like looks at me and he's like, oh, you think that's hot? I was like, what? He's like, oh, you think that's hot? Because I'm watching these guys hit the bag. I'm like, yeah, Devereaux, totally hot. Like I was being sarcastic. I could sense him starting to get at that level of angry that like we need to go. So I looked at Morgan and I said, hey, like close this out. We're gonna leave. Like I'm not gonna. I don't fight in public. That's one thing I don't do. I will not argue with you. I will not fight with you in public. It's not my thing. So I could see him getting to that point. I'm like, hey, we better go. So I looked at her, we leave, and she's like, hey, and she saw him start to get riled up. So she leaves me, she's like, hey, be careful. She's very like conscious of all that stuff. Like, okay, so we leave, we get in the car. He's driving, I'm in the passenger seat. Where I lived in Austin is out by Lake Travis and on 620 and 2222. To get there from downtown, there is this long road you go down, and it is this winding road, and there's no gas stations, there's no street lights, there's no guardrails. If you go left, you're falling off a cliff, like completely sketchy dirt road.
Yeah.
And so we're driving home. He's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. I got my feet up on the dashboard of my phone, and Morgan texts me, and she says, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? I'm just checking on you.
Yeah.
And I'm texting her back, and he immediately says, who is that? And I guess I didn't respond fast enough to him, and he just punches my phone, and my phone falls in between my legs and the dashboard. I reach down to get it, and he just grabs the back of my head and just slams it into the dashboard. I am dazed. I'm like, whoa. And so I have no control. He still has me by the back of the head. He's driving with one hand, and then he pulls me across the like center part, and he's got my face in his stomach, and he has me like by my hair by the back of my head, and he's just pushing my face into his stomach, and he's driving. So at this point, I'm like, I can't throw hands with this dude. I can't wrestle him. If he gets hit or anything while he's driving, the car's going off the cliff and we're both dying.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking it, and he is just holding it, and I get to a point where like I can't breathe. And so I'm I'm starting to black out. I realize I'm suffocating at this point. And so I'm just like, fuck it. And the only thing I could do was like bite him.
Yeah.
So I bit his stomach. He leans forward. I showed you that picture. I don't know if you can see the teeth marks on my face. He leans forward and bites me back on my face.
Oh,
and
so I thought he had punched you. That's bleeding from him biting you.
he did also punch
Okay.
me. This is like the first move that was made.
Okay.
So he bites me, and I just remember hearing like the crunch and the noise, and it was so gruesome. And then he pulls my face off, and immediately blood's just like rushing in my eyes everywhere. I can't see. And he just starts like uppercutting me. He's beating the shit out of me. And then he pulls over, drags me out of the car, and just lets me have it, dude. He beat the living shit out of me. I get to a point where like I thought I was gonna die. Like I was losing consciousness. I was bleeding everywhere. My face feels 10 times the size it actually was.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting weak, and I'm on the verge of passing out, but I don't quite pass out. He thinks that I did pass out, and that I think he thought I was dead. And so he drags me out off the side of the road, and just dumps my body basically. And I can hear him walking back to the car, and I remember thinking like, fuck, does he have a gun on? Like, is he gonna come like finish me off? Like, I didn't know if he was leaving or what was gonna happen, because he sat in the car for a while, and I was too afraid to open my eyes or sit up or let him know I was still alive.
Yeah.
And then he just drives off, and I have nothing on me at this point. I'm like, what do I do? So I get up, and I was like, I'm just gonna walk back to the bar. So I'm walking back to the bar, and I'll never forget these guys in a Jeep. Like, you know, I'm in like wedge sneakers, shorts, and a tank top, and I have my head down, and I'm walking, and these guys, and it's nighttime out, and these guys in a Jeep pull up, and they're like, hey, and like, do you need a ride? And like, I look up, and he's like, oh shit, go, go, go. And they like peel off and drive off. I'm like, oh my God, my face looks that bad. So I get all the way back to the bar, and thankfully it's like right when they were closing, whatever. And I open the doors. It was like 2 a.m. because I remember the doors were locked and it let me in. And I open the doors, and Morgan's standing behind the bar, and she looks at me, and I guess a couple of my other friends that came by, it was like all like the security and the managers and everybody I knew and I worked with, because I worked there too. And they're like, all the girls just start crying. And I'm just like, oh man, I must look bad, you know? And so I was like, no, it's okay, guys. Like, it looks worse than it feels. Like, I'm trying to like calm everyone else down,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so, yeah, and then I went and I stayed with her, and my son was at the house, and I was really, he never would hurt him, and I know that, and this sounds probably terrible. And I was like, what do I do? Because I can't call the cops because I'll lose my kid.
Yeah.
They were already on to me. Like they had other domestic reports called on me and stuff, and I knew if they got called, I'd lose my kid. So I was like, I've got to figure something out. So I called my friend Lexi, and the one who had dated my baby daddy. I said, you need to get to Austin. You need to get here now, and you need to go get drugs. So she drove straight out in the middle of the night, went, got him from David. David gladly gave him, you know, all this stuff. And she came and met up with me. My son was asleep. I didn't want him to see my face. There's no way I could have, like, if other people are crying and thinking that, like, imagine your kid seeing you like
course.
that. So I said, you need to take him to Houston, you know, tell him that you guys are doing like a little vacation, whatever. Gave her some money and was like, just, I'll call you when my face is better, and I'll call you when this David situation is handled. You cannot tell anybody about this. And I specifically told her, do not tell my brother about this. She's okay. First thing she did was tell my brother as soon as she got back. And then, yeah, so, and he's very calculated, but no, he's not, never mind. Forget I said that. And then,
This is not your biological brother. And then this
I don't have a biological brother.
And this
no.
has you're intimating towards what happened to David
Correct.
later. Okay.
So she told a lot of people. She told him, and word spread. And yeah, long story short, he was sitting at a bar out in Austin, and somebody walked in, grabbed a knife, slit his throat, and walked right out.
Yeah, some 6 foot. He said 6'8", 400-pound man came in and slit his throat.
He's probably embarrassed that the guy was smaller than him.
Yeah.
No.
Slit his throat, and then he posts this like gratitude thing on Facebook about how grateful he is to be alive.
So
after.
it was like definitely like a vengeful thing.
Yeah.
So no, he walked in, slit his throat in the middle of a bar. So all these people were there, and I guess helped save his life, and he went to a hospital. He got stitches in his throat. I've heard he can't talk very well and things like that, but he lived.
You never spoke to him again?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I did immediately after because I had to play my part right. This was probably like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
But I had to go back home and be like, hey, it's okay. Like, I'm not pressing charges. You're fine. I'm fine. Like, this is cool. Because we lived together and he was a very like, I had tried leaving him other times. And he was a very like, if I can't have you, no one will. Like, he was going to kill me if I tried to leave him. Hands down. No questions asked.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be smart about it. And he went to like hair school or some shit. And he would like run errands during the day. And I just had to like, I had to lock him out at that point. And leading up to it, he was getting like beat up a lot. He was getting, like I said, my friends from Houston don't play around. So they found out, and there was a lot of like vengeful things that happened to him before that happened, but leading up to it, and I just had to play dumb and handle it. And then when that happened, I was able to leave.
You mentioned before also, and listen, I know we're going down a crazy path here, but you also mentioned before you had guys that would steal money from you. And you said one of them made a bunch of money from that. Was this David who did this?
No, he's not smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
So after I think that was probably my last for the most part, that was my last like physically abusive relationship.
Yeah.
After that, it became more mental abuse.
Yeah.
And as someone who has been extremely mentally abused and extremely physically abused, I can hands down say I would much rather get my ass beat any day of the week than to be mentally abused.
Yeah.
And so after all this physical trauma, I jumped right into the most mentally abusive relationship I've ever been in my life.
Was this also in Texas, or is this?
I met him in Austin, Texas. I don't want to name drop this one, but I met him in Austin, Texas. We moved to Scottsdale together, and it just he cheated on me every single weekend, every single time he went out, and I would threaten to leave him. And then it got to a point after 3.5 years, he was like, "Oh no, like don't leave me. Like we'll go to therapy together," which was huge for him to like say he wanted to do. And we went to therapy. This was before, I hate using the word narcissist because it's so overly used nowadays.
No, but it means something also. So we did, I don't know if I showed you the episode. So we've had a therapist on here, Jamie Lynn, and she comes on and we talk about narcissism as a cluster B personality disorder and the tenets of narcissism as opposed to sociopaths.
Right. And I just feel like nowadays it's so overused and everybody calls their ex a narcissist.
Yes.
So I don't like to use it, but we went to therapy and we went to counseling and all these things. And we did a lot of like together sessions. And then our fourth session, she had us do separate sessions.
Yeah.
And when I went in, she said, I hate to tell you this. She said, but I've diagnosed him as a narcissist.
Yeah.
He has narcissistic personality disorder. And she said, my only advice to you is get out.
Well, I don't know if she can. So it's weird. So in order for him to have a narcissistic personality disorder, there has to be a problem. So I guess the problem was your relationship. So I guess that's true. There's a difference between a narcissist and somebody with NPD. A narcissist is somebody who doesn't think they have a problem. Someone with NPD, somehow they went to jail or something bad happened. And so now you have a diagnosis. Like for instance, antisocial personality disorder is a diagnosis. Sociopathy is not. You can't diagnose somebody as a sociopath. You can after the fact say, well, this person has sociopathic tendencies. Like we can look back at Adolf Hitler or Pol Pot, or we can look back at Benito Mussolini or Ted Bundy and say, oh, well, clearly this person was a psychopath. We can tell. But during the time, it's kind of a weird situation. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is you're right. There's a lot of people that throw that word out there, and there's so much information on it. You should learn because there's there's a lot of times you think someone's a narcissist when they have borderline personality disorder,
right.
And sometimes you think someone's a narcissist when they're actually a psychopath, and you don't. Oh, by the way, all psychopaths are narcissists. You don't understand these things. When you understand them, and then you understand them in the terms of evolution, like Dr. David Buss talks about, then it makes a lot more sense. Oh, it's not that this person wasn't loved or didn't love me. This person is not capable of love in any form for anyone.
That's
right. So, but the thing is, so there's no treatment. There's a treatment for narcissism. There is a treatment somewhat for borderline personality disorder. You can give them like mood stabilizers or whatever. For sociopaths, there is no treatment at all, period. Nothing, not electroshock therapy. There's just the carrot and the stick. That's the only way you deal with a psychopath. And so a lot of people, they have this situation where like, no, deep down, he's a good person. And I have to explain to the girl, I'm like, no, this thing that you're talking about where deep down he's a good person, all of it was fake. Yeah. Whereas you and I would see a crying child on the road, be like, what's wrong here? Let's fix this. Because we would have this internal feeling that we got from our ancestors, correct, ancestral empathy. A psychopath would look at that same child crying on the side of the road and be like, who's watching? What empathetic mask do I need to put on now so that
was him 100%.
Correct.
Because the issues he had with me was also the same issues he had with his family and other people.
Correct.
Like it was, anyways, that was how that went down. But yeah, no, so he was the one I told you I was dating in Scottsdale when my son's dad was murdered.
Okay.
So when my son's dad was murdered, he had never paid child support. So the government cut me a $10,000 check for all the back pay.
Okay.
And again, at this time, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. This is like the most money I've ever had at one time in my life. And I was like, holy shit, like, what do I do? And he was also this guy that like every other week he had these like grand plan ideas of like, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And he always had different ideas.
Was he on drugs?
No.
Okay, so
He was an alcoholic, though.
So grandiosity is a symptom of narcissism. Let me just say one more thing. The narcissists, again, we don't know 100% how this works, but you can take identical twins and split them, and you find that if one of them's a psychopath, the other one tends to be a psychopath. So we generally think, if you read Martha Stout's book about psychopaths, generally we believe psychopathy is genetic, and narcissism could be genetic, but it also could be environmental. And so one of the problems is, like, for instance, if you don't have an arm, your arm is amputated, and I'm like, grow an arm, you're like, I can't grow an arm. This is the same thing with psychopathy. Psychopaths are born with no empathy, meaning the neurochemical pathways to feel empathy. It's not that they're underdeveloped. They don't fucking exist. So when you try to heal a psychopath, I've literally seen people get into psychology thinking that they're going to cure this disorder. You're trying to put something in there that never existed. It's almost like me saying, I'm going to give you therapy to turn your brown eyes blue. There's no such way to do it because it's genetic. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding. So when people throw the word narcissist, borderline, or psychopath out there, they need to understand what those words mean. Because if you don't understand what those words mean, you get caught in these weird situations where you think you can heal someone or help someone that cannot be helped.
And that's me. I'm so empathetic. I was like, I can fix him. I can fix him. And like, even though a therapist is telling me there's nothing you can do, I'm like, no, but I can. And so he had all these ideas. Every week it was like some new business he was going to start. And this was probably like his fourth idea since we had been together that I'd like dumped everything I had into. And so I gave him the check. I gave him the $10,000 to start this company. And he finally hit. He finally hit.
What was the company? You don't have to tell me. That's fine.
Everyone would know who it was if I said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Everyone would know who it was if I said that, so I don't want to put it out there. But yeah, I gave him the 10 grand, and it was so funny because he had all these rich friends too, and he was like, no one believes me enough to lend me this money. Like, I know this is gonna hit, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, I gave it to him. I got zero credit for any of it. And he was like, I'm gonna cut the same deal with you that I was gonna cut with them. Like, if it hits, you get 20% of the company for a $10,000 investment. I was like, cool. I didn't think I needed to sign any paperwork or do any of this bullshit because we've been together for almost 4 years. Like, I was stupid. I was stupid. There's no other way to put it. And so, yeah, and it hit, and then we broke up, and he took off.
Can I ask you, so this is helpful for somebody who's watching this, and they might be going through something similar. What are the things you see and miss, and what are the feelings you have internally when you meet these men who initially seem normal and turn out to have these problems? Do you understand what I'm asking you?
Kind of.
Okay, so like there's obviously red flags you're missing. Probably you look back now, you'd be like, oh, this is obvious. These are the things.
They're not. I'm not missing them. I think I intentionally overlook them because up until last year, like I have a hard time being alone. I used to go from relationship to relationship to relationship, and I feel like I can handle anything, so I almost don't care when I see the red flags.
Got it. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you is, you're really attractive. I'm sure there were normally adjusted men who also were interested in you. And did you feel like not interested?
No, it's what I told you though. I told you I had experienced healthy relationships and been around healthy people, but I found comfort in chaos and there was no chaos. So I was not comfortable in those relationships.
Can you describe that feeling? Not comfortable, or you just like aren't sexually stimulated by this guy that would never hit you, or this guy who would never abuse you? Because I've actually had a girl say that to me. She's like, I couldn't be with this guy because I knew he would never leave me. I couldn't be with this guy because I knew he would never say the horrible things that my ex said.
No. The verbal and mental abuse, like absolutely not. The physical abuse is what I was more addicted to.
Okay.
But now I realize you can be in a healthy relationship and get choked and stuff. It's great in bed, and just as long as in your normal life, it's not in an abusive way. Like, I obviously do think that plays a huge role in like what I want in my sexual life. Yeah. I like to be manhandled, but What was the question again?
No. Listen, I've had the same situation where behind closed doors, I've had girls ask me to do things, and I'm like, "You're sure?"
Yeah.
And then I'll do them because I'm an accommodating human being. But then afterwards, I want to ask them like, "What happened before?" And they'll tell me it's almost like I'm methadone. Like I'm helping them get away from like something that they were used to that was really abusive. I don't know if that's the situation for you, but you're. I don't know. It's
hard for me to identify and relate because I can't even explain to you the amount of self-healing I've done over the past year.
Okay.
It's in particularly last 3 months. Like it's been astronomical, like what has happened in such a small amount of time. But I think if I'm thinking back on it, just again, like if there's not that chaos, I just feel like I'm not loved. I feel like they don't care. I get very insecure. I have hell of abandonment issues. I almost always liked being like, you've seen my track record personally. I date guys that have nothing going for them. Like, I don't even think I've had a guy that's maybe 1 or 2 guys I've ever dated in my life even had a job because I like to be in control of the relationship because I feel like I can't be left. You know what I mean?
There you go. You said the thing that I was trying to get you to say. Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly because I've seen.
I'm very self-aware now.
Good. That's what I was trying to get you to say. Because what I've seen before, again, I went on a date with a girl recently, and she told me about the abusive things that her exes would do. None of it was physical. It was all mentally abusive. And I remember after the date just being like, I can never do those things for you. Like, I'm never going to kick you out of my car. I'm never going to call you a whore in front of my friends, no matter what you do.
No, that kind of shit, I never would put up with, ever. Mine was, like I said, like...
the physical abuse.
It's the jealousy, the controlling behavior.
And you would confuse that for love.
Yeah.
And now you don't.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that's another thing. Like I tell them, like I'm never gonna go through your phone. I'm just gonna fuck you better. Like there's never gonna be a point where I'm gonna hit you. There's never gonna be a point. Like and I tell them straight up, I'm like, if this is the level of abuse you're used to, you don't want to date me.
Right.
If we have a problem, we're gonna talk it out. And if you hit me, I'm going to leave the room. I'm not going to hit you back ever.
Yeah.
And I tell them that in the beginning because I'm like, I see red flags. I'm 45 years old. I see red flags, and I do immediately tell them, I'm like, I know this may be what you're used to, and you may have confused these things you've experienced in previous relationships with healthy behavior. You're not ever dragging me into that. I need to tell you this right now. There's nothing you can do to make, unless you had like threatened my family member, I'm never going to hit you. Right. Yeah. And so then a lot of times they're like, oh, they just have this like epiphany, like, oh, no, that's not what I really want. And then I see them a month later, and that's what they're back to doing because it's really hard for a human being to break these patterns. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I can say with absolute confidence that now before, like if a guy was jealous or controlling or whatever, I'd kind of be like, ooh. And like if I date a guy and he wasn't jealous at all, I'd be like, you don't care about me then. Yeah. You know what I mean? But now if I were to date a guy that was even like borderline jealous about anything, I'm like, no, you got to go because this is my life. This is what I want to do. And if you're not going to change my mind.
Okay, so now let's get to this. You started having the first thing you ever told me about when we were in that bus in Jamaica. You had brain aneurysms.
Correct.
You had brain. So what do you think there was trauma that brought this on, or is this genetic, or is this just random? And then what?
You know what? I didn't even think about that. Because me and my doctor sat there, he was scratching his head. Yeah. You know, he's like, the main cause of this, usually you see, actually 1 in 50 people have one, they just don't know it. Yeah. He's like, usually, it's cigarette smokers. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't vape. I never really have. Yeah. The second one was genetics. I don't really know my family that well, but as far as I know, no one had it. And he's just like, I don't know what's causing these. But now that you're talking about it, it really probably could have been the stress and the trauma that my body was going through. I don't know. We don't know what caused it. So,
you also went through some pretty significant head trauma, like you described previously.
Yeah, I've had a lot of concussions too. Yeah.
So,
but he said if it was due to like head trauma that he would see like a fracture or something on there, and he didn't see one.
Okay, so you have a brain aneurysm, and what is that? What is that? That is
number one question I get about this is people like, how did you know? How did you know? Mm-hmm. So I was having normal symptoms. I was getting headaches. I never have had a headache in my life, by the way. The last 2 years, I was getting them like crazy. So I was getting headaches. I was getting that thing where, when you stand up and you kind of see black spots and you feel like you stood up too fast or you're going to faint. That was a huge one for me. Ringing in my ears, but like crazy ringing, like to where like I wouldn't be able to hear you for a couple of seconds when you were talking, things like that. So my husband's like, oh, you're probably just dehydrated, like vitamin deficiency, whatever. So taking vitamins, drinking water, I was ruling things out. I went to like 4 different ENTs. The first 2 were like, oh, you have tinnitus, here's the medicine. Oh, you have vertigo, here's the medicine. Didn't run a single test on me. Yeah. So the 4th one was like, what's really common is middle ear tumors, and people don't realize they have them. We take it out and you're good. So let's get you a CT scan. So I got a CT scan. I was leaving the office, and before I could even make it home, he called me. He said, I need you to turn around and go back. Yeah. You need another CT scan with contrast. So I go back, and then he calls me again, and he says, you need to see a neurologist like yesterday. He goes, I don't like what I see, but I can't diagnose it. So I go, it was an aneurysm. They rushed me into it was December of 2020, and they were rushing me to like emergency surgery, which is when COVID was huge. And it was like around December. So emergency surgery was 4 weeks out. So I go in, they place a stent in me. I was thinking like I'm getting my head cut open, all this stuff. It actually is like a little tiny dot on my wrist. You can't even see it right there. They went in and ran a catheter, dropped the stent off, pulled it out. I was in ICU
so they went through carotid artery.
Yeah,
into your
they
brain.
went in through my wrist, and I don't even know if you can show this or whatever, but that's my other scar right there. They
It
went
came
in through
out through your pelvis. Got it.
No. Went in through. I have had
pelvis.
four
Okay.
surgeries, but
Yeah,
I'll
so
say that.
they went in through a vein or an artery.
They went in through my artery.
Yeah.
So placed a stent in there and said it should go down, put me on blood thinners, aspirin, whatever. I had a lot of restrictions, and it's killing me because fitness has been like my life for everyone who knows my history.
Okay. So because your blood pressure, you can't. Did you ever have a seizure? Were there any seizures involved with this?
Not from this.
Okay.
From drugs, yes.
From
Like
drugs.
back in the
Okay.
day.
Got it.
But yeah, so they treated it, but this one had just popped up. This was like new. I've been sober at like 8 years at this point, so
Yeah.
it wasn't related. So yeah, they placed it in there, pull it out, come see us in 6 months. Went in 6 months, got another. They still considered it a surgery, but they're running a catheter, the same one they do with the stent. But they just put a camera on it instead. It's called angiogram.
Yeah.
Run it in there, but it's still a surgery. Run it in there. They're like, yep, it's going down. You're good. Come back another 6 months, and we'll see if you're good enough to come off the blood thinners. Third surgery, I go in. They run it up there, and they're like, so your first one's gone down a lot. It's great, but now you have a second one. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I had been doing everything right, and I was really excited to come off and be done with all this stuff.
Did they give you heparin in order for the blood thinner, in order for you to not bleed through this aneurysm?
What do you mean?
Heparin. It's a blood thinner. Oh, you don't know what they
I'm
gave
on
you.
clopidogrel.
Okay, got it. Okay. No, well, the reason why I was asking is, to this day, they still don't know why you're getting multiple aneurysms. Okay, got it.
No, when they found the second one on my third surgery, that's when he came and scratched my head. And he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I've been sober. I don't even drink alcohol anymore."
Yeah.
And so, I think the other last thing we had to roll out was the gym. And it was my blood pressure getting high. And it wasn't even the gym. It's my whole life. I'm skinny. It's so hard for me to gain weight. And I was, when I did ODP, it's the Olympic Development Program for soccer, and I was involved in a lot of sports and stuff growing up. I was trained that you have to lift heavy to gain weight.
Right.
And I was pushed on this program that I've been on my whole life now because of, and they're telling me you can't lift heavy because you can't strain that hard. If you strain that hard, you know what I mean? You see people doing the deadlifts and stuff, and they're throwing up and passing out. Like, you can't lift heavy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck. So that's been a huge challenge for me the last couple of years.
So you still can't lift heavy. Yeah, Jay Cutler came on here. He talks about doing squats until his nose bleeds.
Yeah, but he should probably get checked out.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. So now we have this situation because you brought it up before. What is the prognosis for the aneurysms? Stuff you still have to deal with now. You just can't lift heavy. You're on medication.
I'm on blood thinners, which I bruise. So I'm always covered in bruises. It's so hard taking content. So I bruise easily. Being on blood thinners is where most of my restrictions come in. It's not even the aneurysms. It's being on blood thinners. You can't do this, that, whatever. Not being able to lift heavy in the gym is killing me. But I'm I've had to start over. Every 6 months I get this surgery, and then I can't work out for a couple weeks, and I have to start over. But I just keep starting over because I'm not going to stop. But I have another surgery in September.
Wow. Okay. So this is still ongoing.
Yep.
Okay.
I have another surgery in September, and they're gonna let me know because now they've treated the second one, if they're gone, and if I can come off, or let's knock on wood.
Well, let's knock on wood. Definitely.
Yeah.
So you did talk about this, your husband. So how did you meet your husband after David? How did you end up meeting him? Was this in Scottsdale?
No. So after David was the money guy, and then after him, I moved to Dallas, and that's when I met my husband.
Okay.
Because we had such a toxic relationship, like the
money guy.
Yeah, the money guy, the narcissist that really messed my head. Like, I was like, I got to get out of the city, or I'm just gonna keep getting back with him.
I think you're 3 for 3 with narcissists, by the way. Yeah, I don't think it's just the last guy was a narcissist. I think.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think
he was also.
Yeah, I don't. I think you're batting 1,000 on that one.
What's wrong with me?
Well, we'll talk about it. Like, that's the other thing we'll discuss. Keep going. So now you have a husband.
I'm gonna get diagnosed after this. Okay. So I moved to Dallas. Every time last several people I've met have been through Instagram now because I don't leave my house. I'm so traumatized. I don't even leave my fucking house. So I was in the bar industry. He was in the bar industry. He had seen me out through some mutual friends. He hit me up on Instagram. We started talking, and it was so funny because my friend was like, you just need to be single. Like, you're always someone who has to be in a relationship. She's like, be single, feel yourself out. I'm gonna force you to be single. She's like, find a guy that is good in bed and you have great sex with, and you also have a really good time when you go out with, but you would never date. I go, I got the perfect guy. And my husband, I was like, we had amazing sex. We had so much fun when we went out together. But he's never had a girlfriend a day in his life. He had a girlfriend in high school, and that was the only girlfriend he's ever had. He was infamous for not dating girls.
I can't imagine something like that. That's crazy.
And I was like, this is the perfect guy, because even if I fall in love and want to date him, he won't date me. Like, this is great.
I feel attacked right now. Go ahead.
And so I'm like, this is amazing. Like, perfect guy. We got engaged in 6 months, married in a year.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. One of my friends, she lives in Austin, and she started working at a bar with a guy who I would consider to be the biggest male whore I'd ever met in Austin. This guy.
Every guy I dated has been the biggest male whore.
Yeah, and then she would tell me these jokes. She'd be like, "Oh yeah, I was hanging out with so and so," and he tells me these jokes about all these girls he's fucking, and we would laugh. And then she's married to him a couple months later because like, he was willing to settle down. It's so funny when I hear guys that are like, "No, Michael, I don't want that perception on social media because if I come off like that, then I won't get a good girl." Most of the good girls that I know are ended up marrying guys who've been with like hundreds of women.
Yeah, and that doesn't. I mean, we're adults. I don't think that really matters. How many women a guy has been with doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But it's how you are when you're with me. You know what I mean? But he had been with everybody. He was single his whole life. Like I can only imagine. I mean, I do know most of it, and we're like best friends though.
I can only imagine.
Like, he could sit there and talk to me about that stuff, and we would laugh at his horror stories, and like we would laugh at just all, like, we were best friends. It was so perfect. And then we got engaged and married, and it just, like, it was the most healthiest, like, he was so supportive. There was no jealousy. It didn't bother me that there was no jealousy. He encouraged me to go on trips, do things like, I think, did you meet him or no?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay, yeah.
We were making fun of each other at Tucci's house one time.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, he was awesome. He was amazing.
No, I got him. Immediately when I met him, I got it. Like, I understood. And I was very happy for you. But remember, I didn't realize the previous relationships that you'd been in because the guy was sarcastic. And I was like, oh, okay, I can definitely relate to that. So you're with this guy for a while. And this is your second kid you have with him?
Yeah. So when we got married, we were talking about, like, does he want a kid of his own? Because if not, like, I'm ready to be done. Yeah. He was like, honestly, like, I'm not worried about it. Like, my son's dad passed away, and he considers this Andrew to be his dad. Yeah, for sure. And so like we were just happy with what we had, and like a week before I was gonna go in and get my tubes removed, I was pregnant. Yeah. That's how it happens, right? That is how it happens. Especially when you're Mexican. I can say that. I'm Colombian. I can say that. So here's the thing. So now you're in this happy relationship, and I remember, and so the thing is, like, hearing this, again, it just like blows my mind because I want to point this out one more time. You were friends with the guy, and then you guys started dating. From the very first time we ever hooked up, we never spent a single day apart after that. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. Okay. We were, I wouldn't say I don't fuck my friends. That's like, everyone knows me, like, for that. Yeah. Is like, if I'm like, hey, this is my friend, you can automatically rule out the fact that we fucked. Yeah. Like, but this is one thing I do think that is interesting, because you talked about the protective men in your life previously. So you never slept with them. No, never. But you would end up sleeping with men who were, like, not protective of you. Like, what's funny though, no, because the men that raised me were such, I love them to death, by the way, before I say this, were such pieces of shit to their girlfriends that it was like, hey, like, this is how we view girls, this is why we view them this way, and this is how we treat them. Like, don't be like this, and don't date guys like us. So, like, all my guy friends I've grown up with are the best friends I could ever ask for. They're so loving, so supportive, treat me like princesses, but they don't treat their girls like that. Okay. They have a different relationship with me. And if I were to sleep with one of them, they would lose all respect for me, and I go to be treating like shit by them too, probably. This is an incredible, you are very self-aware. Yeah. You were saying that before. I agree with you about that. That is a very astute observation there. All right, so here we go. Now, you meet David. You didn't expect it to happen. I'm sorry, not David. Your husband. Andrew. And Andrew. And then you go through that. You guys have a baby. I meet you while you guys are married. And then what happens after that? Also, does OnlyFans come about at this point? I started OnlyFans in like 2019, like a year before COVID. Okay. All right. He is the one encouraging that too, though. Like he was supportive of even you doing that. Yeah, it was his idea. So he's like, dude, have you seen these girls doing like premium snap? Like, what is that? You remember like when premium snap was a thing? I was like, yeah, we were like trying to back end all of our own stuff. Like he was taking my pictures for me, videos. But at this time I wasn't doing any like boy girl content. I was only doing like nudity.
Yeah.
And so he's taking my photos for me and he was writing down people's names and who paid and who didn't. And it became overwhelming because I couldn't wrap my head around like giving 20% to OnlyFans. But then I was like, now I see why they take 20%. They deal with all this stuff for you.
Yeah.
So I switched over and yeah, it was great. No, our divorce had zero to do with OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about it. I like.
No, oh no, we can't. I mean, it was honestly like, it was so petty. It was, we're best friends, by the way. Like me and my
even today.
Oh yeah. I
Okay.
actually was talking to him on the way over here.
Okay.
Like me and my ex-husband are best friends.
Okay.
And we laugh about it all the time. We're like, how fucking dumb was that? Because it was literally, if I could summarize it, it basically got to the point where this dude loved me so much and so hard that he gave his life up for me. Like he quit working, he quit doing everything. He was a stay-at-home dad. It's not what he wanted. Mm-hmm. You know, and I was, you saw me the whole time I was married. Like when was I with him? He was like, hey, you know, Jamaica, you should go on that trip. That's a great, you know, content collaboration for you. Like he was so encouraging and so supportive and so loving. Like you should go. Like, and I'm like, what about the, you know, like I have responsibilities. I got it. Just go.
Yeah.
And he would take care of all my responsibilities for me. And then, you know, like my friends would have a trip. Oh, you should go. And like, I mean, there were times I was in bed and I'm like, I don't want to go on this trip. And he's like, I got you. He's like packing my suitcase for me. And it wasn't like in a toxic way. It was like, he saw opportunities and he knew this stuff wasn't going to last very long or, you know, it could end at any moment. And he saw the money that was coming in. He saw the investments we were making. We had an end game inside. It was like, I'm going to deal with this for 2 to 5 years max. And then we're going to be done and we're going to have our time and we're going to live a great life. But within those 2 to 5 years, I don't think he thought about, and I didn't think about, he got depressed. He got really depressed. I mean, he was sitting at home by himself, raising a newborn and my son. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I was hands-on. I was home all the time with my kids, but I wasn't there mentally.
Okay.
I was there, but I was always on my phone. I was always editing photos. I was always working. I was always doing stuff. I was not involved as a wife. I was not involved as a mother. Like I'm very aware of like my mistakes and the role I played and all that. And I tried to have conversations with him about it, and he was so worried about me and my feelings that he wasn't being upfront and honest with how he was feeling.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure he was fully aware of how he was feeling and why. And yeah, I mean, it was just so petty. It all could have been avoided by us just sitting down and having an honest conversation with one another about how we were feeling and where we were at with our lives, and we never did that. And it was such a selfless move on his part, but it was too much. And it was such a selfish move on my part, and it was too much.
What ended up ending the relationship?
I guess it got to a point where I was completely, what's the word? Neglecting him.
Neglecting him? Yeah.
I was neglecting him physically, emotionally. And he was okay with that, but he was so depressed that he started to have spurts of anger that I was so out of character for him, and he wasn't himself anymore.
Do you feel like his behavior? I'm not blaming him, but his behavior was a little bit passive aggressive because he wasn't used to dealing with this type of anger before, and was so. This is the thing. Like I have family members that are so concerned about my feelings growing up that like later on they would like hold grudges against me. It's like, oh, I did all this for you. Was it something like that? That he never held any grudges, or he didn't bottle up any anger or anything like that?
I'm sure he did, and if he did, like I said, I was never aware of it. He never this all could have been avoided by us just sitting down and having an honest conversation with each other. But the way we handled it and the way we went about it was so wrong, and we didn't realize it till probably 6 months after our divorce. And then we finally called each other, and we were like almost kind of laughing. We're like, what the fuck did we do? Like this was kind of like, why?
So let me ask you, just follow me along here with the logic, because I don't know if this is the case, but I'm just asking. So you had a pattern of where you were with some really unhealthy guys, and now you have a healthy guy and you start neglecting him. Do you think that these things are connected in any way?
Maybe. I've never really thought of it like that. I think
here's my question. After you're dating this guy, the next guy, is he healthy?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so I
went right back to
okay, so do you understand where I'm coming from here?
Yeah.
Do you remember the conversation I told you like I had with one of my female friends where I was like, we'd slept together, and afterwards I was like, you understand the abuse you told me about before? I can never give that to you. You understand that, right? You're going to, and I told her, I was like, you're going to lose interest in me. I'm just telling you up front. Like every time we have a problem.
I didn't lose interest in him though.
Okay.
I never lost interest in him. I was so preoccupied with like, now I have everything I want. I have a guy, I have this, I have that, but I can also do whatever the fuck I want. Like I had it made.
Yeah.
I had the best life ever. All my friends were always like, dude, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You have the best marriage ever. Now they're still even like, you have the best divorce ever. Like, what are the odds? Like, I think I just got greedy. I got selfish with my time and what I was doing. And I was trying to have the best of both worlds. I got a great, loving family at home. I can also travel with all my friends and live my life. I could do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And I was just trying to, like, I guess, do too much. But no, the breaking point was we never fought ever.
Okay.
And we were fighting about little petty stupid shit.
Okay.
Like, and we were, I knew he was depressed. I said, you know what? Like, I'm always traveling. I'm like, why don't you go to Dallas? Why don't you go hang out with your friends and like you have fun for once? So I flew him to Dallas. I'm staying at home with the kids. Like, we're reverse roles, you know what I mean? And he went out there, and I think it was too late. It was too late, and it was the wrong move to do. But yeah, he went out there. We got in a stupid little petty fight while he was out there, and he was like, you should just call and get a divorce kind of thing. And he had thrown it out there a couple times, and it got to a point where like it was just wrong place, wrong time. And I was like, don't threaten me with this shit. And he was like, no, do it. Call a divorce attorney. So I did, and I was kind of like hesitant. I was like, oh, it's this much money. He's like, you got the money, like, let's do it. And I said, okay. And so I served him the papers while he was still out there, and we have the fastest divorce in the state of Nevada, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows that.
You mean in Nevada in general, the two of you?
What do you mean?
The two of you had the fastest divorce in the state of Nevada?
My attorney told me we have the fastest divorce in the state of Nevada. We both were like, all right, done, sign the papers.
Oh, so it was a no contest divorce. Got it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I got it. The guy, just out of curiosity, so now you go on, now you're single again. Did you immediately jump into another relationship?
2 months after.
Okay. And
we got divorced. It's like Memorial weekend, so like end of May, beginning of June. We got divorced.
But your relationship was over before you got divorced, right?
Not really.
Internally, you weren't seeing anyone else. You just waited
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then yeah, so we were end of May, beginning of June, we got divorced, and then end of July, I met somebody, and by beginning of August, we were dating.
Okay. And then what was the problem there? Was it the same issues that you had before?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very controlling, very aggressive, very.
He
wasn't physically abusive.
Can I ask you, what are the feelings that you have? Like, I'm trying to remember, as a Homo sapien man, I'm trying to understand this, right? If some dude beats me, I beat him back.
He didn't beat me.
No, I know, but let's go back previously.
Okay.
I'm not judging you for your feelings. I'm legitimately trying to empathetically understand this feeling. There's a feeling you're getting now. There's this new guy who's jealous. Is it like butterflies in your stomach?
He wasn't jealous. See, that's the thing. No, I'm very shallow.
Okay.
If you are tatted and muscular, and you know my type.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm saying, by the way, I'm saying less than I know.
I know.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he was 6'2", muscular, tatted up, had, the face tats, everything that I like. And he was extremely attractive, and that's all I cared about.
Got it.
But when we got together, no, he was super cool, supportive. Like, he had like my ex-husband's personality, but in a body that I was wanting. And then like a month into it, the jealousy and stuff started to come out. And for the first time in my life, my best friends are all guys, and I have my best friend's Mikki Mase. He lives with me when he's in Vegas, and he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And he was starting to show like the jealousy in a way of like, I don't like your guy friends. I don't want them around. Well, like, that's one thing I'll never tell. My guy friends are my family. They're my life. And so when that's what was my breaking point. He said, I don't like him. And I said, then this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But he was never physically abusive. He was jealous, but I didn't care. It was like, it was like a mixture of the two, because he was jealous about the things I was doing, but instead of catering to it like I would have in the past, I was just kind of like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, then you can leave.
Yeah.
But I knew he wouldn't leave because I had all the control of the relationship. Like I told you, I made all the money. He moved in with me. I paid for everything. He didn't have a job. And that's how I wanted it, though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've seen Tucci do the same thing. Right? I've seen a couple other girls do the same
Everyone always compares us with
thing.
situations. Yeah.
She's coming on here. You have no idea what she's doing a documentary. I don't know if she's told you. I'll tell you off the air. It's insanity what she's about to do.
Good for her.
Yeah, and I'm going to interview her. So here's the thing. So now you're in this situation where you're with this new guy. I don't need the gory details. I'm not trying to be lascivious here, but I ask Nara this, I ask everyone this. There's a transition where you go from doing nudity to boy girl on OF. This is that point, right?
This was that toxic statement he said that gave me butterflies.
So it is butterflies.
No, not literally. I'm trying to think of it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it was. But
like I know what I feel internally when
and
I
you
see
know
a
the
beautiful
tattoo
woman.
thing and everything too.
Oh, by the way, what's the 444 for?
Oh, angel numbers.
Okay, got it.
Cliche as fuck, I know.
Got it.
He had them tattooed on his face too. When we met.
444?
Yeah, it was ironic. But yeah, so first it started with like the crazy. I think we had been dating for like 2 weeks and we got each other's names tattooed on us. His was big as fuck across the stomach. Mine's pretty big, just like right above there. And again, I think this was like a feeling like, I don't know, just I like my men obsessed with me. To this day, I might be healed, but like my guy has to be like obsessed with me because I get equally as obsessed. And it's not like you know what I mean? Like, oh, they have to be obsessed. No, like I'm equally as obsessed with my dudes. So it's like when I'm in a relationship, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like I'm either giving you 110% or you ain't getting shit. But so about a month in, you know, he's like, well, what are you doing? And he got very, you know, Sarita.
Yeah.
Okay. So he asked me if I did girl, like what kind of content I did on my OnlyFans. This is something I never took into consideration.
Wait, we're talking about married Sarita?
Yeah.
From France?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
She did
From Florida, Alabama.
Wait, you talking about you? Oh, I was about to say her real name. Okay, yes, Sarita Natividad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, hold on. Okay. So anyways, he was like, do you do girl? Like, what's your OnlyFans like? And I was like, I thought it was pretty like clear what I did, but I guess not. So like, I only did strictly nudity. So I fly him out. He moves in with me. I take him on a trip to Tulum.
Fly him out where?
To Vegas.
Okay.
To here. Like I flew.
Yeah.
He was from Utah, so I flew him from Utah out to Vegas. He moves in with me immediately. I took him on a trip to Tulum where it was me, Serena, and Tiana and Tigard. We were doing a content house, but I brought him with me. So again, this dude, you saw what he looked like. I thought he was very like. He doesn't look like. He looks fresh out of prison, like he's been through some shit and not phase. So I thought this was all good. So I'm in my room getting ready in Tulum. He goes downstairs to get a cup of coffee. He comes running upstairs like he saw a ghost. And he's like, I have to tell you something. Sit down. And I'm just like, okay. I sit down and he's like, I went downstairs to get a cup of coffee and I saw Tiana and Serena naked. They're just walking around. I didn't know they were like that. Like, and I'm like, okay. I'm waiting for him to finish his story. And that's it. That's the whole story. And I was like, I'm just like, oh no. And I'm like, okay, like we have a lot to talk about.
Bro.
And he's like, is this how these trips normally go? Like a bunch of girls walking around. Then he starts like freaking out on me. Like, are you gay? Like, are you bi? Like, are you this? And I was like, no, but what? And I'm like, you ever been in a locker room? Like, I don't know if I can say this without like offending people.
I'll blink it out if you can't.
Okay, so this was the first concern I had. I said, no, you know, like I can shoot with other girls and not sexualize them. He was projecting a lot of like homophobic things at me. And I said, and I'm only quoting him, I don't like this term, but I'm quoting what he said. I said, have you ever been in a locker room with other men and you see them walk around naked, but you're not sexualizing them? There's just naked guys. I said, it's the same thing. And he said, no, actually, I've never been in a locker room with other naked men because my dad told me that ball sports are for.
Wow.
And I said, oh, that explains a lot. That's where this is coming from. So he's like, well, do you do girl? And in my opinion, girl is porn, like girl on girl.
Interesting.
And I said, no. So a week later, I go to Content House in Palm Springs with Sarita. She's so PG. She shows nothing.
And she's hilarious.
She's the sweetest, most unthreatening.
Sarita Natividad is one of the 5 funniest women I've ever met in my entire life.
I love her.
Yeah.
And we did a photo shoot on a pool table and she's like, I don't show anything. I said, that's fine. Get behind me. She's guarding herself, and then she has her hands and she's covering my breasts for the photo. And fast forward now, I come home, all this stuff, and he's just like losing it. Like the whole time he's like, I don't know what's going on out there. Like he's been cheated on a lot and he has like trauma. And he's just like losing it. And I'm trying to be sensitive and I'm catering to him and I'm explaining things. I'm being very patient. And these are all things I don't take into consideration. He's like, we have a male photographer. Like, why are you naked in front of another guy? And I'm like, this is their profession. Like, it's not like that, dude. Like, I went from overly supportive husband that's like, go, 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 to this guy that's like, a guy can't take your photos and this, that. And I was catering to it though. I stopped doing photo shoots. I hadn't done a photo shoot in like a year almost at this point. Can
I ask if you had proposed to have a threesome with this dude, he would have freaked out?
100%. 100% he would have rejected me.
Me and George are like looking at each other like, what?
Accused me of being gay and lost it. Because we got a lot of fights where he was just like, admit it, you're gay. Like, I know you're gay. Like, he thought I was gay because I was shooting with other girls.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, so then I just start doing solo content. I'm not shooting with other girls. I'm not having male photographers. I'm only having female photographers. He was uncomfortable with female photographers. So then I just started doing like self-boyfriend content, like Snapchat style on my phone, which actually like ended up working out because it blew up and does way better.
The boyfriend experience is where you hold the
camera.
The
boyfriend experience is if a guy asks, like if you send the content as if it was your boyfriend and he's like, hey, what are you doing right now? Where are you at? What are you wearing? Blah, blah, blah. I'm in bed filming myself and I send it. And that content is so much better now than professional content that I just switched over and it wasn't a big deal. He was happy. I was happy.
It's almost like a POV boyfriend experience through your phone. And because I wasn't aware of
I'm
this.
messaging guys.
I'm sorry, the girlfriend experience with I think Nara told me about it. The girlfriend experience is what they provide on there.
So instead of me having a whole blown photo shoot and I'm sending you photos of that and it looks like you're flipping through a magazine, I'm like, hey Michael, like I'm like sending you like a little video of myself.
Yeah.
So and it ended up working out. So he was happy, I was happy, not a big deal. Then other things started coming out and he said, well, I want everyone to know you're mine. That was the statement. He said, I want everyone to know you're mine. And I said, well, your name's tattooed above my pussy. I think it's kind of obvious. And I never posted guys on my Instagram. You saw how much I posted him. I was trying to, I don't even know.
You were trying to validate his insecurity.
I was trying to be sensitive to how he was feeling and I was trying to incorporate it into a healthy way and I wasn't doing it right.
So at the time, do you feel like this is insecurity or do you feel like he's just being like,
I know it's insecurity, but I'm trying to, and again, he got into the mentally manipulative stuff with me because if I didn't cater to him, he's like, well, you're selfish, you're only doing what you want, you're not taking my feelings into consideration. I'm like, oh, he's right. Like, I'm not taking his feelings into consideration or I would be like, we could negotiate on things. And he's like, you never negotiate. It's always like, I'm not going to do this. It's my way or the highway. And I was like that. And so he was convincing me that was the wrong way to go about it. And so I was trying to, cater to him more. And then that's when I said, okay, well then why don't you and I film together? And he was like, perfect. He was excited about it. He wanted it.
Yeah.
But then then once in a while a fight would arise and he was like, well, I wasn't even going to do this. I only did this because of you. And I'm just like, it became so much. It was so much. And so, and then the fight started, the insecurity started, and then I became very depressed and unhappy the way my husband had. And I got to a point where it was end of last year, and it hit me out of nowhere. And I'm not sure if it was like all my past stuff coming back up or my divorce hitting me late or this new guy just being such a dark cloud over my head that like I got severely, severely depressed and I became extremely suicidal. I've been depressed before in the past. I've never experienced suicidal thoughts. And I was extremely suicidal and I had nothing to be depressed about. I was like, my life is great. I'm making money. I've got a healthy, happy family. My kids are good, everything. And I got really, really depressed. And the suicidal thoughts were so overwhelming and it was crazy because I was doing everything I could. I was so desperate to feel better. I was scared of myself. I was so scared of myself. I thought I was going to.
Like drugs and alcohol? Feel better?
No. Like, I'm 100% sober. I've never relapsed. No, I was like, okay, therapy. Okay. Someone told me to do acupuncture, spiritual things. Like I was trying, you could have told me stand on one leg and bang your head in the wall 10 times and you'll feel better. I would have done it. I was so desperate to feel better because this suicidal feeling was so overwhelming. I didn't know where it was coming from, which was making it even more scary. Like, you could. Your hair's bunched up underneath there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, fuck. It's fine. Good. Okay. I didn't know where the feeling was coming from, which made it even more scary because Did you ever wake up and not be able to breathe? Did you ever wake up in a panic during this period? No, I would go to sleep with him. In a panic, okay. The very first time it ever started, I was having the worst panic attack of my life, and I was like, I'm gonna go to sleep, I'm gonna wake up, and this is me gone. And then I woke up the next day, and that was my first day of depression. And it just got worse from there. There were days that like it was, I wasn't sad. Like, I wasn't sad. I wasn't crying. I wasn't like, oh, my life sucks. Like, I had a great life, and I knew I did. It was a very overwhelming feeling in my chest and in my head, and it was just like I cannot stand to feel like this anymore. Like, if I wake up and I have one more day of this, I'd just rather not be here.
Yeah.
And I was having like really intrusive thoughts and urges to kill myself, and I couldn't get rid of it because I didn't know where it was coming from. And so I was doing therapy. I was doing everything. I was doing therapy. I was doing everything. I was doing spiritual healing. I was doing acupuncture. I was everything I could possibly do because medication was the last thing I wanted to do.
Course.
And then I finally got to a point where it's like it got really bad, and it was right around Christmas, and I called my ex-husband and I was crying. I said, "You got to come get the kids because I'm not gonna make it." And I flew them out to him. I couldn't even get on the plane, and I flew them out to him, and I came home and I was this close to doing it, and then sorry.
Do you want anything, darling?
No.
You okay?
Let me take a break.
Okay.
I need like a tissue or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Ugh.
You got one, George? Okay.
Ooh, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, no, what a story, what a life.
Yeah.
I empathize with you a lot, but I'm very grateful that you have the confidence to share the way that you've shared today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I've been trying to find a way because I get asked all the time to like do a YouTube video on all of this, and I don't have like the time to start a YouTube channel and do all this. So I've been like wanting to, but this is like a lot of stuff I've never talked about. So I'm like,
And you need a guide, like to guide like the person.
yeah, I couldn't just sit there and like,
Yeah.
steamroll this stuff out. Okay.
All right, Brandi. No, it's totally fine. By the way, you always have permission to cry here, right?
I've never cried in front of like anybody. So
It's all good. Hey, listen, that was a genuine moment, and I didn't know the story about that.
no one does. That's why.
I got to be honest with you. Okay, so I'm not going to be too descriptive, but you remember from my situation when I meet you, you're married and you've got 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then all of a sudden you're just not married. Okay, and I know some of the dudes you're hanging out with, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow. And but I can't talk to you about it.
You can talk to me about it.
I can talk to you about it now. We'll talk off air. But I saw it happen, and it seemed like a very traumatic change from being married to not being married. And then I didn't realize that you were dealing with this level of depression. What do you attribute the depression to? Do you know now?
No, and that's like I said, it terrifies me because, like I said, I tried therapy, I tried everything. It wasn't related to my divorce. It wasn't related to any stuff from my past. I to this day don't know what caused it. And like I said, that's what scares me the most, is because then I feel like if I don't know what it is, I can't heal from it, I can't attack it, and it could come back at any time. So that's always like a scary thought. So that's when I was like, I need help. So I went to a psychologist and I got prescribed some medications. I was undiagnosed bipolar 2 disorder, which I thought was weird because I didn't know anything about being bipolar 2. You think bipolar 2 is like you have spouts of anger. You know what I mean?
Did you feel manic?
So I didn't know what manic was, but yeah, I realized that because I was like, this has never happened to me before. Like, how does this just happen? She's, well, sometimes people experience a traumatic event or even going through a divorce, and that can trigger it. And it did. It started right after my divorce. Like, that whole summer, I was manic. I remember my friends telling me, like, wow, you're handling this divorce like a little too well. Like, I was happy. I was traveling. I was like doing the most. I was too content with it. I was like, this is fine. Everything's fine. And I didn't know what manic was. And I was manic that entire summer, unaware of it. And then when wintertime hits, I get depressed. And then when she starts telling me this, I realized, like, oh my God, this is a pattern. I thought everyone was like that. It's summertime, like, weather's good. I feel nice. Like, I'm going to go out, have fun. Like, I didn't think that was being manic. I thought that was like, summertime comes around, everyone loves it. Holidays are gloomy and down for everybody. I thought it was normal. And then I realized, okay, I related bipolar 2 with having anger issues.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Being bipolar 2, how it was explained to me was you go through periods where you're manic, which is really high highs. You're happy. You'll spend a lot of money. You'll do compulsive things. You're spontaneous. And then you go to in depressive episodes that hit you. And it's what I was experiencing. You're depressed and you're sometimes suicidal and things like that. And so that's what I was experiencing. And so I got on medication and I'm still currently on it. And I told her, I said, I'm terrified to get on medicine. I don't want to become dependent on anything. I don't want to feel different, you know? And she says, but you do, because you don't want to feel like this. And I was like,
well, these I imagine these are not addictive medications.
No, I take oxcarbazepine. It's actually prescribed to children even, because it's such a, like, I don't know, like, not addictive, and it can also help with like seizures and things like that.
So this is like a neurochemical.
So I made it very clear with her, if you're going to put me on medication, like this is what I want, this is what I need. And I wasn't aware they actually have like a test now where they can swab the inside of your mouth and tell how your body will react to certain drugs without having to use you as a guinea pig. So I did that as well, and it's working great for me. I'm on a very, very low dose, so I can still sense like manic and depressive episodes happening, but they're just not as intense. And I just want to like gain control over it to where I don't need to be on medicine.
So this is something that we had Jamie Lynn on, the therapist, on, and we talked about the difference between these two things, because a lot of people get confused by this, right? So cluster B, if you guys look up the DSM-5, cluster B personality disorders, cluster A, it goes mad, bad, and sad. The mad ones are cluster A, cluster B is bad, cluster C is sad. But as far as the cluster B, it's antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and histrionic personality disorder. There are no cures for personality disorders. There's sort of treatments that you can do.
Wait, so what I have is a personality disorder?
No, you have a mood disorder. That's why I was going to get to the second part. You have a mood disorder. There are no treatments for personality disorders. Bipolar is a mood disorder. So the thing is, even if you're bipolar, there are periods of normal mood. Does that make sense? Like even a broken clock is going to be right twice a day. At some point, a manic depressive person is going to have, like, it's hotter than shit in Texas and it gets cold in the winter. There's a few weeks there in the spring where it's like the weather's nice. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that even with a mood disorder. But you can actually, because mood disorders are neurochemical, you can actually take medication for them. So I
also got in an argument with my psychologist because I didn't know what I was talking about, but I didn't want to be on medication either. And I told her, I said, I'm not bipolar. I said, I'm depressed. I'm feeling suicidal. Like I am depressed. And she says, no. She said, if you were depressed, you would be depressed 24/7. She said, depressed people kill for those manic moods you have because they never feel that. She's like, you're not depressed. And when she was such a good psychologist. And so when she explained everything to me, she made me feel comfortable. And I said, okay. And I willingly got on the medicine, and I'm still learning.
Was she able to prescribe the medication for you?
Yeah.
So she was a psychologist and an MD.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
She was like the medicine doctor. Like she's like, what do they call it? Medicine management.
Okay, got it.
So because I have to go every month, and they have to make sure like I'm okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was intense, to say the least. So that's when I got that bad around Christmas, and to the point where I had to get rid of my kids because I was scared myself, and I couldn't check myself into a mental hospital. It's so twisted because then I would be risking losing my kids as well.
For sure.
So it's oh man, it's so and I'd never think about stuff like that. Like there's people out there that really, really need help. And if you get the help you need, then you can like lose your kids. Like but you need it for your kids. You know what I mean? So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's also, you bring that up. It's also some of the reasons why people, you mentioned before, they don't report spousal abuse. They don't report domestic abuse for the same reason. It's like, well,
and
now
that was my situation
now
with David.
I'm admitting that I'm in a broken home, and then it gets even worse because now, I was reading the study just like how underreported rape is. It's unbelievable how, especially in first world countries, how underreported rape is. Sexual assault, where a girl just
I had that incident.
Yeah,
too.
you just like, and then the other thing is the men who prey on, God, man, we're getting really deep, and I don't mean to go this far in it, but the men who prey on girls who are sex workers, or girls who do OnlyFans, or girls who strip, because they think that their complaint will not be taken seriously.
I actually, I was raped when I was on my 21st birthday by my boyfriend's manager, and he told me that if I said anything, he would leave me because he was afraid to lose his job.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had gone to the hospital, gotten the rape kit and everything, and when you get a rape kit done, they call the police in, and you have to report it. And he was standing right there next to me. He said, "If you report this right now, like I'm going to leave you." So I didn't report it because I didn't want to get left.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of different instances people don't think about.
Yeah, rape is one of these things where like if you after the fact say it was consensual, then they can't charge you, right?
Yep.
So it is one of these really odd things. But yeah, it is massively underreported because like again the incredible chaos that you bring into your life as soon as you say someone raped you. And I've seen it here. One of the saddest things about living in Las Vegas, I love living here, but one of the saddest things about this is whenever I talk to a girl who anything, like she's a bartender at a nightclub or she works in bottle service and she's been sexually assaulted and she like.
They say you're asking for it because the way you dress.
She knows the cops are not going to take her seriously. And to be fair, like I think Instagram did the same thing to a lot of girls.
In my case, I was drunk when it happened, and I was hit with the are you sure you just didn't make a bad decision?
Yeah.
You mean like you weren't in your right mind, so who's to say they raped you? So.
And I feel like some girls are convinced of that after the fact. They're like, oh well, yeah, I guess this is just how it goes. And I've actually seen girls where they're like consistently drunk and then they end up like having sex with somebody that they're not interested in over and over again, and they just think it's normal.
I feel like everyone's had that experience where you got drunk and you slept with somebody you wouldn't have normally slept with, or you made a bad decision, whatever. Like when you're raped, it's a totally different feeling when you wake up. It's not like, oh, regret. It's like I was raped.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's different, but you get discredited by everybody based on what you do or how you're dressed or if you were drunk, like anything.
With the guy before where we felt depressed, did you end the relationship at that point?
Yeah. So I was ending the relationship and I got to a point where it was like, I don't even know why you want to be around me because I can't even stand to be around myself. Yeah. Like this feeling, it was like I just wanted to crawl out of my own skin. It was the worst feeling I've ever felt in my entire life, hands down, by a landslide. I wouldn't wish that feeling on anybody. So so I couldn't shower, I couldn't get dressed. I got to a point where I couldn't even get out of bed. The kids would just be running around destroying the house, and I couldn't even get up. And I was like, they can't be here right now. I was afraid of myself, and so that's when I called my husband. He's like, I can't come out there and get them. Like, you have to get on a plane and get them out here. And I was like, I can't get on a plane. And like, I remember like I was literally at one point crawling through the fucking airport. I was crying. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I did it and I got them out there. And then that's when he was like, you're not leaving. Yeah. And so, he had his parents watch them and he stayed with me for about 2 or 3 days. And I was like, I have to go home and be in my own space and like deal with this. And like, he was definitely helped me tremendously through it. Mm-hmm. I got back home. Thankfully Mikki was living with me at the time. He knew what I was going through, but I don't think he knew like to the extent that I was going through it. And there were days where he literally, I mean, I was in my room in bed like melting, and he would come in and be like, come do this with us, come do that with us. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I can't even get out of bed. And at one point he literally came in my room and grabbed my shoes and put them on my feet. And I said, I have not showered in like a week. And he goes, I don't care. And he like picked me up, threw me over his shoulders, took me out to a hockey game. And for the first time I was like, oh my God, like I feel a little bit better. We went to dinner after that. And then he kept up with it and he maintained it. And he, I know he was doing it because he was aware of it. But he never like really made it seem that way. So he played a huge role in like saving my life essentially. And then I had other friends that started doing the same thing when people were starting to notice. And I went out shooting with Xander and Cody one day, and then Cody kind of had like a heart-to-heart with me in the car. And he told me about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I was like, oh yeah, I follow him. Like, I've been looking into his stuff. He's like, no, like you need to read this book. Like, go read this book. And it took me a couple weeks, and I went and I got the book and I read the book, and I can't explain how much better I felt. All of the stuff I was trying to use to feel better, it was Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural was the book. And every time I turned a page, I was just like, oh my God. And I was feeling better. And so like I became addicted to reading because it was making me feel better. I didn't care what it was, and then I went and got all his books and I read through all of them in a couple weeks. And then in his books, he talks heavily about meditations, and he has a few guided ones online you can buy. So I started buying those. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never meditated a day in my life. I thought meditating was sitting outside and just clearing your mind. I didn't realize that it's like really concentrating on like quantum physics and things like that. Yeah. And then I started steamrolling. I was like quantum physics, neuroscience, epigenetics. Like I just started becoming like a huge nerd and getting obsessed with all this stuff. And I was buying all these books and I was geeking out till 4 a.m. going on YouTube videos down
like
rabbit
for real
holes.
quantum physics?
Like yes.
Have you seen
yes.
we did I had a theoretical physicist here, and we discussed my degree. My minor's in astronomy or
Yeah, I knew that.
astrophysics, and so we had the theoretical physicist on here. And we discussed it for 3 hours, and then I had a flat Earth debate. With the physicist on, and we debated for 3 hours and 48 minutes whether or not the Earth is flat. And it was pretty amazing experience seeing that. But I didn't know you were interested in quantum mechanics.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't get into it till this was in February of this year.
Yeah.
And so I just started nerding out and just going deep into all this stuff. And like, I never felt better. And so now I'm at this place where like, I'm almost like, well, fuck, I don't even know if I want to date anybody because like I need this in my life now. And there's so few people who are into it or really understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, I don't hang out with my friends as much. And everyone's like, oh, are you going back into depression? I'm like, no, dude, I've never felt better. And it's like, I've always been that person who has to be in relationships, has to be surrounded by 20 people all the time. Like you've seen my house, there's like 20 people living with me at all times. I'm like, everybody get the fuck out. Like I need to read, I need to go meditate. And I crave being alone.
Well, I would like to officially welcome you to our club.
Thank you.
Likes to be a lone nerd, read books all day club. I've been a member for 25 years. Welcome to the club. You're welcome to join us. Huh?
I'm a newbie.
I got some book recommendations for you.
Send them my way.
All right, awesome. So let's talk about a couple of things. So now at this point, you guys broke up and you haven't seriously seen anybody since?
The depressed guy. Nope. Since that's what I'm saying. That's February, and then when I was reading Dr. Dispenza's books, he's always talking about his retreats and his students, and they talk about like people they've cured of like cancer and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, well, maybe this will help with my aneurysms. Maybe I can cure my depression and not be on my medication. So I'm not kidding you. They do these retreats in like a drop. Like you got to be on at 10 a.m. and get it, or it's sold out.
Yeah.
And it's like $2,000. And there was one in San Diego, and I missed it. And then I got the one in Cancun, which ended up being 1,000,000 times better. And I just went to that at the end of June. So it's only been a month since. I feel so much better. And I know I haven't dated anyone because I haven't found anyone that like I don't think I want to.
Fuck yeah, girl. Welcome to the streets. We'd like to officially welcome you back to the streets.
No, the streets aren't for me, dude. Like, I want to go home. I love being in relationships. Like, I'm a relationship person, but like, my standards are so high, and I'm like not the same person I was, and I just haven't found anyone.
I don't want anyone as your friend, I don't want anyone to abuse you. That makes me very fucking angry that somebody would do that to you, right? And the other reason why it makes me angry is because you're also Brandi fucking Andrews. Like you can have anyone you want. So that makes me additionally angry that someone would abuse you, right?
Thank you.
So I mean that's part of the issue. Here's another thing I want to ask you. So what happens now? So you break. This guy wanted you to film boy girl. Do you keep doing it after you guys break up? Like what is the decision to do after that?
I've never really filmed with anybody. I had like one video of me and my husband right before that had gotten out there, but no, I've never, even in relationships before OnlyFans was a thing, I was never one to like film for pleasure. Like no, like I would never let guys film me. So
you brought up something in a previous interview that I saw that was really interesting, and I've been asking a lot of girls this, so I'll ask you as well. And I already know what your answer is. You're in a monogamous relationship with a guy. Would you film with someone else, having no feelings involved? Well, like literally, Swedish Bella was on here saying that she would. Or saying that a woman should. Would you ever film with someone outside of your relationship, strictly with no emotions, being in a monogamous relationship? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Never. No. If I'm like I said, I am all or nothing. If I'm with a guy and you're my guy and we're in a monogamous relationship, there's no such thing as having sex with somebody with no emotions. That's not monogamous then. No, if I'm with somebody, like I'm with you, you're mine, I'm yours, like the end.
I feel the same way. I am shocked at how many women feel the opposite way. And you actually brought it up on your
OnlyFans is not an excuse to go. Like there's ways to role play with your own man or do things like. And I have no urge. I'm not. Like a lot of people see me on Instagram, and I know I come off in a certain way because that's my job, that's my brand. But like I am the least sluttiest girl you've ever met. Like I really don't. I'm not promiscuous in any way. And I'm sure like I've had situations where like when I hooked up with a guy, it would probably seem too easy or too whatever. And it's just because like I know what I want. If I want it, I'm gonna get it.
For sure.
But like don't think that I'm like this with everybody, and don't think you did that. You know what I mean? But like I'm really picky. I'm really shallow. But like I don't sleep around, and if I'm in a relationship, that's what I'm saying. I want to be in a relationship because I'm not for the streets, you guys. Like it's not for men.
No,
for
just me. So my streets are a different street. This is Sesame Street where I live. We read books and we go to the gym. That's my street.
Yeah, I seriously, like even yesterday, I woke up, ate, went to the gym, fell asleep all day, woke up, just went to the gym again because I didn't even know what to do with myself. And like trying to talk to guys these days. You know, you want to see a text I got?
Yeah, tell me what you got.
Show me. This guy's messaging me. I don't even know if you want to like show it or say.
No,
it
I can't. I'm not going to show it, but you can paraphrase what it is that he's saying.
This is what I deal with.
By the way, shout out to the men of Action group who would never do shit like this.
Hold on, you're gonna have to cut this part out because it might take me a second.
No, that's fine.
Hold on. This is. Oh, please tell me I didn't delete it. You're gonna like this. This is the only reason I'm showing you. Oh no. Okay, this is what I deal with. He said, "How do you communicate?" What? That's the most unattractive statement you can say to a girl is don't ever ask a girl if she has Snapchat. If I'm talking to her, do you have Snap? If the second a guy says, "Do you have Snap?" block. I'm done.
If you say, "How do you communicate?" You should have said in English. That's what I would have said.
Yeah, and then when I said I don't, that was text I showed him. Do you have Snap? I said no, and he's like, "Well, how do you communicate?"
How do you communicate if you don't use Snap? That's hilarious.
So I'm done. I'm done.
All right.
That was it.
A couple of things I want to ask you. Oh, so the reason why I was asking the question before is because you said in that previous interview, I thought was interesting. You're like, every time you meet a guy, your first thought is, would he film with me?
No, I didn't say that's my first thought. I said, but I do have that thought. Like if I'm dating a guy, because like I said, this is all new to me. I was not filming boy girl before. I filmed it with my boyfriend. One, because I was really comfortable with him. So if I got with another guy, maybe I don't have that kind of comfort with him. I don't know. No, it's not an immediate thought, but like, yeah, if I'm with a guy, it's like, hey, I wonder if he'd film with me. And if he's down, cool. If he's not down, cool. I'll just keep doing solo content.
So the reason why I'm asking this is because this is something I frequently have my female friends tell me, that they have the same question whenever they're dating someone.
You can't. Every girl says she doesn't, she's lying. Like if you film that kind of stuff and you're dating a guy, you're obviously going to wonder if he's down for it. Like, and it's not a requirement. It's just a curiosity thought.
But you and I both know people where it is a requirement.
Oh, absolutely. I'm saying for me, it's not a requirement because I wasn't doing boy girl before. And if I don't ever do boy girl again, I don't care.
Yeah.
Those videos will just sell for way more.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Cool. That was awesome. All right. So here's the thing. You can't lift heavy weights now. How often do you work out?
Every day, twice a day now.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've been doing 2 days because I have no life.
You're just normally like an ectomorph. Like you're just normally really skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growing up in high school, I was bullied so bad. People would be like, she's bulimic, she's anorexic, eat a cheeseburger. I'm like, I just ate 12. Like, I'm just always, and I played sports my whole life, soccer mostly, and I'm just cardio the whole time.
When you got all the tests done, do you ever have your testosterone or estrogen checked?
Yeah, I have high testosterone levels.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah. I mean, because like, generally it's good. But you end up with a high sex drive, but you have really nice skin. Women usually have really nice skin going, later.
I don't want to get it fixed.
There you go.
I like having high testosterone levels.
Beautiful. Also, you're a gamer, so you were you play, what do you play? Do you play GTA?
No, so you know what? When COVID hit, I felt really bad. My son had nothing he could really do, and he wasn't a big gamer. We were always like outdoors people, Yeah. And so COVID hit, and he wanted, I got him PlayStation. I hadn't played video games. I used to be a huge gamer growing up, and then Halo came out.
That's the one.
And I couldn't grasp I was used to like the 007 with the N64, and then I couldn't grasp the concept of having 2 joysticks. Like I couldn't move and look at the same time, and it pissed me off so bad because I'm so competitive that I just stopped gaming when Halo came out. Yeah, I couldn't pick it up. Couldn't pick it up, so I gave up. And then my son was into Fortnite. All the kids were in Fortnite. And so he's playing, and, I felt left out. Like, me and him are so close, and that's, like, my best friend. We do everything together. And he's just in there playing video games all day. And I'm like, man, like, I want to play with you. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay. So I learned how to play video games all over again for him. So I had something to do with him. And then I got a PS, and I'd be in my room, and he'd be in the living room. We'd be playing Fortnite together.
Did you play Red Dead Redemption or GTA 5 or anything like that?
No, I played Call of Duty Black Ops when that was a thing. Okay. The new Call of Duty is...
The zombies one? You ever play zombies with your son?
Yeah, I mean, I played those ones, but I wanted to get on, like, the real Call of Duty that, like, everyone plays. But, like, Dude, people are too
Oh, you're
good.
talking about Warzone.
Yeah, people are like way too good on there.
Well, the thing I will say this about Warzone, I know I did not expect us to get into this topic. They're starting to do they're doing a much better job of skill matching. So if you're not, well, actually, the best skill matching I've ever seen is Fortnite. The reason why Fortnite's so popular,
because the levels.
yeah, if you're terrible at the game very quickly can tell that you're terrible and put you in a lobby with terrible people, and then you're having fun getting kills, actually like missing shots, but it's still fun
Because it keeps you playing.
Correct.
Call of Duty kicked, like I was done with that so fast.
COD was bad. So I was a competitive Madden player, and so once you get to the top levels, like every game is a sweat. Like you're playing against guys who do nothing but cheat. I haven't had you don't have any fun games once you get to the top, and it's the same thing for Call of Duty. Those guys are fucking murderers.
Well, no, because when you get that good though,
Yeah.
like if Call of Duty is starting to do that, then they'll take off.
Yeah.
Because that's why I went back to Fortnite. I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like dude, those kids are like cussing at me and stuff, and like there's like build and no build, and there's like
Oh God, the things these kids say to each other over the
yeah, and
headsets
like
is incredible.
you know, like inner me is like bitch, but I'm like this kid's 8, like I gotta cool it. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know, I like the build, no build. I like the colors. Like I don't know, I just like
Yeah.
Fortnite. It's like more fun.
No
but yeah,
build
that's-
Fortnite,
that's
got it.
No build.
Yeah. Okay. So now here's the other thing I want to ask you about. So the evolution of OF, right? So you talked about before making 6 figures a month on OnlyFans. There's been you said you started in 2019, and Nara came in here and she talked about how much she would sell a video for, and then now it's like $20. Like the industry is getting saturated. Do you get that vibe, or do you feel like you mentioned before you have a very loyal group of fans? Has everything stayed the same for you?
I'm not one to ever like boast about myself, but I'm like my biggest flex is my fans. I have the most loyal fans
Yeah.
ever, and I've collabed with other girls. I've had agencies look at my stuff, and they're like, oh my god, you have the most loyal fans. So no, I'm not experiencing any of that. I can sell whatever for whatever, and they just want to see me. My fans love me, and even if I sold it for cheaper, they'd still throw me tips on top of it. Like,
Do you have an agency?
yes, I do.
Okay. And what made you choose this agency over other ones?
The girls that they're with.
There
So
you
like
go.
one of the main things of an agency that they provide for you is they have these content houses that they provide, and you travel, and then they bring all the girls, you know, that are within the agency for you to collab with each other. And the girls that they had signed were all girls I would have loved to work with, and all girls I know are super successful. And it's just like, you know who you surround yourself with. I'm not
Do you want to say who it is?
the agency.
Yeah.
They're called Creators Inc. They're not like they don't really aren't known by their name, but the owner of it's Andy.
Okay.
And so if anyone's ever talked to Andy, he's amazing. Love him. Yeah, he's a really good owner manager. Like he gets us on good trips. He gets us good content collabs going. He has amazing girls signed to him. He will go up to bat for you. He's just like, he's amazing.
You have also noticed, I've said it on this program several times, nobody hates women more than Instagram. Instagram built their entire...
TikTok does.
Well, yeah, TikTok
does.
That is a good point. Instagram built their entire platform off attractive women. I used to joke, Instagram is basically women in the Western Hemisphere posting pictures being viewed by men in the Eastern Hemisphere. Like that's the majority of their content. And then what happened was, as they wanted to be taken seriously as a platform, then they started changing it. And it was like, it's like, there's nothing, I'm going to say this now, if someone from Instagram is listening, there's nothing lascivious about a woman standing in a fucking bikini. Nothing. There's nothing that needs to be reported.
They look at your page though, because when I was doing fitness modeling, like 100% wasn't in the sex industry whatsoever, and I was doing fitness modeling, I could sit there and post myself in a near naked bikini, and I'm flexing and I'm showing my body off because I just doing it. I mean, I didn't compete or anything, but I mean, like you're doing a competition or you just are using these supplements, whatever, and I can show my body off and it's okay. But then when I have a page that's related to sexual content, I'm in the same bikini doing the same pose because I'm proud of my body and I'm showing it off. Now it's not okay.
Yeah.
Because they see that you're related to the sex industry.
Yeah.
It's so hypocritical.
So part of the bikini competition I'm hosting for Playboy at Wet Republic, one of the things we were doing was this online portion. And I told the organizers, I was like, just so you know, some of the biggest influencers are going to come. They're going to lose their Instagram this summer. And I was telling them beforehand, I'm just like, a good 20% of the girls that we're going to have in this competition will have lost their Instagram at least once during the summer. Girls who've lost 5, 6, 7 Instagrams. And then TikTok
8. I'm on 8.
You're on 8.
And on TikTok, I'm on account number 11.
Yeah, so for TikTok, it's even, but the TikTok was always this way.
TikTok's tracking IP addresses now.
Yeah, TikTok is one of these things where Kindly straight up told me, she's like, if you show a straight on image of a girl's butt and there's any like girth to it, if it's round, you will immediately get banned afterwards. And I didn't understand because I had more followers than her at one point, and I was like, how is this happening? And she's like, yeah, I keep getting my account taken down because the other thing is male influencers tend to get like way more leeway than female influencers.
There's dudes flopping their dick around in their sweatpants and it's okay, but then you walk out in a bikini and you're deleted.
Yeah, I've not seen gay content being cut down quite at the same level that. The reason why I know this is because I have a female friend of mine, and she's lost several Instagrams, and she's dating a guy, and he's a heterosexual guy, but he makes content that's clearly for gay men. And
but who's to say that's who it's for?
Right, but right, maybe you're right. I think TikTok puts it in that category, and the things that he does are just as lascivious as what she does. But
that's what I'm saying. What if I did lascivious stuff and I said it's for women though?
Yeah.
So now it's okay?
Yeah, I think. And then the other thing with TikTok, which is obviously extremely disturbing, is that if you are a 12-year-old girl and you're dancing and barely wearing anything, that never gets banned. That's also something that's like really, really creepy on that platform.
I haven't really experienced anything with minors on there, thankfully. But
yeah, well, your algorithm isn't. You don't watch minors, so you're not going to see it. But that's something a lot of people complain about, is that they have these little girls doing these dances wearing barely anything. They never get banned. But like a girl with any kind of curves,
it's all political. At the end of the day, it's all political because I know people at Instagram. I know people that work for Meta. I know people that that have plugs at TikTok, and it's all political because there are girls that I know that I could name drop right now that are. Their pages are so obviously geared towards OnlyFans, and they haven't been deleted, and they have a blue check mark.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm trying to start new pages. I could have 20 followers, and I'm already deleted for a TikTok. I'm wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
So it's political, and same thing with Instagram. Yeah. There's girls that could literally post the exact same video, and one's gonna get deleted, and the other's not.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think I can't remember who it was, but I experimented where I posted the same video on my TikTok, and she posted it on hers. Hers got taken down and mine didn't because I was a male influencer.
Yep.
And TikTok does things a little different. The thing is, I was trying from TikTok is that like simply having breast implants is offensive on TikTok. Like the very fact that you even have them will get you suspended. I know people think I'm exaggerating. If you think I'm exaggerating, go try it and see what happens.
There's a lady who was supporting the Ukraine when all that stuff happened, and she's holding a sign completely topless.
Yeah.
And she's on TikTok and she's fine because
Yeah.
it was related to the Ukraine stuff. There's women who are breastfeeding and you can see their entire nipple and it's okay because they're breastfeeding. It's just like.
Yeah, it is kind of, and the thing is, it wasn't like this before. If you go back to 2014, 2015, you weren't seeing girls getting suspended at this rate. Like
it's because OnlyFans has been such a big thing since COVID. But the funny thing is, when you were mentioning Instagram not even be related with sex workers, OnlyFans doesn't even want to either. In October of last year, if you remember, they were threatening to kick all the sex workers off, and you had to have talent to be on there, and that was it. And then they realized, like, oh, they make us all our money, we can't do this.
Yeah, I think what happened was when because they were going to go public. I think what happened was the bank.
Yeah, but like we make them all their money.
Yeah, but they didn't. Like, again, you understand, that because you're one of the people working for OnlyFans. The bank the multi-billion-dollar bank that's underwriting it, they don't look on OnlyFans. They're just listening to what they're told.
Yeah.
And probably when they made the announcement, hey, there's no publicly traded company that does pornography, so we're not going to allow you to do this, they probably went in there and then got estimations like, oh, well, you're going to lose $2 billion a year if you do this. And they were like, oh, $2 billion? Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the original.
Yeah.
The original. I think that's essentially
and
what
I get
happened.
asked all the time, like, oh, why don't you work with more brands, or why aren't you reaching out to brands? You have such a huge platform. And I really don't think people understand how many companies and people do not want to be associated with a sex worker. If you're going to do sex work, that's all you're doing, because no one else wants to fuck with you.
Wow. Okay. Have you found that problem? I know you said you're single now, but like with dating, have you found OF to be an issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not directly, but here's the thing. If a guy didn't want to be like date a girl because she had an OnlyFans, and I'm sure it's happened a million times, I wouldn't know because they just wouldn't hit me up. They would go to my page, immediately see that I do OnlyFans, like, whoop, and steer away.
Yeah.
And it's probably happened so many times I don't even know about it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, a guy's like, oh yeah, I would date an OnlyFans girl, and they act like they want to date you, but really they think you're like because you're an OnlyFans girl, you're just gonna like put out, you know what I mean? And like they try to play that card, but then really they just want to fuck, so they're not gonna take you seriously. But
do you after this whole all the things that you've learned, do you believe that monogamy is a natural state for people in general and you specifically? Do you ever question whether or not monogamy works in general, or is this still the thing that you want?
Honestly, I never thought I would say that. Yeah, since being in this industry, I don't question whether it's a natural state. I still believe it's a natural state. I'm questioning if it's, with this day and age, if it's realistic anymore, because I've found myself thinking I'd be willing to compromise things I never would have compromised before. I don't think it has anything to do with being in the OnlyFans industry, though. I think it's starting to be that way for everybody. Like, even if you don't have an OnlyFans, like I know so many people that are in open relationships now, and neither one of them were ever in the sex industry or whatever. I think it's just like, and I don't agree with it. Like, I will die single before I will be in a non-monogamous relationship.
Got it. So monogamy is right for you.
Monogamy is what I want.
Yes.
Yes. And if I can't have it, then I just won't date. So I'm not gonna be in a relationship and agree to something I'm not really okay with and pretend to be okay with it.
Here's what the science sort of leads to, is the idea that monogamy is a thing two people have to work at. It's not actually the natural state.
It's anything. Yeah. Anything you have to work at.
Well, so do you understand? I said this before. Cinderella has fucked up more relationships than probably any single movie that's ever come out, because Cinderella makes you think you deserve to be happy and that there's a soulmate that you deserve. You don't deserve shit. You work for it. You find someone who's amazing.
Deserve is the wrong word, but I think everyone's worthy of it.
Well, sure, worthy, but I'm worthy of $1 million, but I still got to work for it. I still got to work for it. It's not going to manifest, right? Like in Cinderella, there's a soulmate, a Prince Charming, who just shows up, and then all of a sudden, like everyone else is waiting for their Prince Charming, and I'm like, you got to go to the gym too.
I don't think that's necessarily realistic per se, but I think whatever you honestly believe and think that you want, like, you can get.
But you got to work for it.
Do you?
Yeah, I think you do. I fundamentally believe that, in
any sort of way. Like I said, since I've been heavy into like meditating and stuff like that,
you're working for your happiness.
I would say meditations work. So yeah, like in a way,
you have to work for it. No one's manifesting $1 billion for you because you're a Sagittarius. Like, it doesn't work like that.
No, not like that. But I'm saying,
but like, you understand, people believe that though, Brandi. That's my point. The point is, like, people legitimately believe that I'm just going to sit at home, I'm going to keep getting fatter, and then God's going to send me a soulmate. No, it is not how the world works. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, like, yeah, to that extreme, like, I understand what you're saying.
My whole point is, like, monogamy. There's no science that shows that monogamy is a natural state for humans. We didn't even have marriage until 11,000 years ago, and our species is 300,000 years old, and hominids are 3 million years old. There's 5,000 species of mammals on this planet, and 3% of them have any kind of pair bonding. We're the only ones that go 50 years. There's no other mammals that do, but there might be some kind of bird or some shit, but for the most part, they don't do this. And so, no, I think there are some elephants that do this, but for the most part, like, this type of pair bonding, it's not that it's wrong or right. Evolutionary psychology, which is what that book is about, is not about wrong or right. It's about what is and isn't, right? And so the idea that, our natural state is monogamy, there's no science behind that. But if you want monogamy, you have to work for it. If you want to work for it, it's awesome. Like, go ahead. If you see a bodybuilder and he's like big and like really swole, it's because he works for it. If he stops taking supplements and stops working out, it goes away. I get what you're saying. And if both people don't work for it, again, Brandi, 56% of the marriages in this country end in divorce. Right. Like, it's not because, wait, I thought we were all soulmates. I thought we said shit at the wedding.
That doesn't necessarily always have to do with monogamy, though. Like, you have to work at everything. You have to work in marriage. You have to work in emotional states too, not just physical. But I mean, like I said, I've caught myself lately just questioning what I would allow or what I'm comfortable with in relationships now, because now I have been, like I said, I'm a relationship person. A lot of my relationships have been around 4 years. Yeah. And when you get that long, or like even longer, I've lost sexual attraction to men while I'm still like in love with them, though, in relationships. I've lost the intimacy. Like, I've experienced that. And now, because I've experienced that, you do have to work at it. I question, like, there's these phases in relationships. Like when you first get together, you got that honeymoon puppy love phase and
Sure.
you're obsessed with each other. So like you could never think about your partner being with somebody else. Then you get a couple years down the road and you get to that point where like, where is he at? Like, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what he's doing anymore, but I love him, you know what I mean? But the sexual chemistry maybe has died down a little bit. And then it gets to a point where I haven't made it past that point, but I'm like, maybe if I got to that point where I was losing the physical attraction, the sexual chemistry was dying down a little bit, but I still loved this man and I want to be with him the rest of life, maybe I would let him have like a hall pass here and there. But I'm such an emotional person that it would have to be like out of sight, out of mind. Like, hey, like I know you're going out of town this weekend. Do whatever you want to do. I don't want to see about it. I don't want to hear about it. And like you're not getting. There can be no emotional attachment there. Like it is going to be a fuck, and
So
that's all it's going to be.
call it a hall pass,
And like a hall pass. But nowadays everyone's so emotionally involved in things. I don't necessarily know that I could trust a guy to go hook up with a girl and there not be any emotions attached to it, because the girl and the guy almost need that to have good sex.
I don't know that the guy needs that. So men don't need comfort. Women need comfort. Men absolutely, positively do not. If any man tells you this, he's a fucking liar. Men do not need comfort to have sex. If the most beautiful woman you've ever seen wants to come up and have sex with you behind a fucking dumpster, you ask what time. And
Are
how
you
long.
going to enjoy it as much as you enjoy
As far as men, yes, we don't give a shit. If you didn't know
You
that,
don't have better sex with girls when you have an emotional connection
we
with them?
don't give a shit. I know you think that that's
I
the
know
case.
you don't give a shit, but I'm saying like when you
No, some of the best sex
So-
guys will tell you they ever had was in a fucking unisex bathroom with someone they don't even know their name. I know for women it's like that, and I'm not saying that so the difference is it's completely compartmentalized.
You've never
for men.
had like extreme passionate sex
Yeah,
with somebody
absolutely.
that you couldn't have had with like somebody you didn't know?
but different types of enjoyment, but they were both great. They were both 10 out of
Okay.
10, but they were different. Whereas for a woman, a lot of times, sex without the love component will never be incredible, right? I've talked to women before. It was like they would rather have average sex with their boyfriend they're in love with than go cheat. And they met some other guy, went on a date, and they had like more orgasms they've ever had in their life. They'd still rather go back to their boyfriend because they're in love with him. And
No, I don't agree with that. I just feel like it's hard for me to achieve an orgasm if I'm not like super emotionally connected
okay,
to
so
them.
you know a lot of women are not like you. You know that, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, so you should, ready? For first book, it's called Why Women Have Sex by David Buss and Cindy Meston of the University of Texas at Austin.
Okay.
And they talk about this. And
Like I can have casual sex if I want to,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to achieve an orgasm or really be like, oh my God, that was so good
Yeah,
without the like emotional attachment.
I know some women that cannot achieve an orgasm with their committed partner, and when they go outside of the relationship, cannot stop having orgasms. I know some women that literally, that you should read the book because it's 17,000
This
women.
just narrowed down my dating pool even more.
Why? What do you mean?
I don't know.
It doesn't, like, your dating pool is massive. You're Brandi fucking Andrews. Everybody wants to date you. You have nothing to worry about. You being selective is something you should worry about, for sure. Having some friends around you who genuinely care about you and then asking them, hey, does this seem like a red flag? That's a great fucking idea. You're grown up enough to do that. But like, for real, like, you have nothing to worry about, girl. Come on. Seriously?
Yeah, I do because never mind.
Girl, you're amazing. You have nothing to worry about. Seriously. But the thing I want to explain to you is this, like, because a lot of women don't understand this. If my free testosterone is 1,100 and yours is 90, do you understand how big of a difference that is?
Yeah.
Women do not understand what it, like, if you listen to a woman who takes anabolic steroids, she's like, oh my God, all I could think about was sex. I was going crazy.
high testosterone
And it's like,
levels.
no, but for you, high testosterone is 140. For me, high testosterone is 1,300. There's a completely big, you having high testosterone, you still can't bench 375. Like, there's a big difference between your high testosterone and my high testosterone, right? So that's the thing. So when you understand that, men can completely here, I'll give you an example. With men, when men cheat, I've brought this up 50 times in the program. When men cheat, men who cheat, men who don't cheat, they report the exact same satisfaction in the marriage. When women cheat and women who don't cheat, the women who do cheat, 80% of the time they report lower satisfaction in the marriage. When men cheat, it is not to end the relationship. When women cheat, it is generally to end the relationship. And so when you see that, like, you understand, for men, they can completely compartmentalize it. This idea that the sex is better because I'm in love, I've been in love and
Not
had sex.
necessarily in love, but like even just have like an emotional connection. Like if, like I said, like if
I'm
like
not telling you it's not great. I'm telling you having an emotional connection is great and sex is great, and they don't necessarily have to anything to do with each other. As a man, they don't. I'm not saying they always
Yeah.
don't, but I'm telling you right now, dudes have been in Cancun and had the best sex of their life with like a threesome with two girls they've never met before, because we're men. We don't need. This is the thing. If a woman would have sex in a cardboard box, a man would not buy a house. We do not need comfort at all. Men do not need any comfort in order to have sex. They don't. Women do. Women have a seduction process that they go through. It's like, well, I need to know these things. I need to feel comfortable. I need to feel safe. I need to be fucking attracted to them. Men just need one thing. They need to be attracted.
This changes everything.
No, it doesn't change you knew this.
No, well, I have guy friends and we've talked about stuff, and I've had guy friends tell me different.
What do they tell you?
I've had guy friends, like, not all of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have had them say like, oh yeah, like it's way better with my girlfriend because like you're more comfortable, and so like you're doing more.
Right.
And, like,
but you're doing more. That's what makes it better. It's not just because I have an intimate relationship. If I find a woman,
like if you have a one night stand with some chick, like it's gonna be pretty basic sex. But when you've had sex with a chick for the 20th time, you're doing crazy shit.
I have found both things to be true. I have found both. I
agree with everything you're saying, but I'm just saying I have guy friends who have said.
I've met women that on the first date it was like everything was true. Like it was all I was doing things that I didn't do with the girl I was with for 2 years. And like the thing is,
I can see that. So, I've been there.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? What women are attracted to. This is the great thing about this book. What men are attracted to is very simple. Like no dude does not find you attractive. Every dude. I don't care if they may be lying to you. Every dude's gonna find you attractive. For women, not every woman finds every guy attractive. Some of the guys you describe with the tattoos on the face covered in ink, some women don't find that attractive. There are women who think I'm incredibly attractive because I rescue animals, and there's some women who think I'm fucking disgusting because I rescue animals. Like for women, it is completely different. For men, it's like we just see Jessica, like what's her face? Who's the girl?
Margot Robbie.
Okay, here we go. Margot Robbie in fucking Wolf of Wall Street. Every dude is like, yeah, she's hot. No, even guys who are
every
like,
girl thought she was hot in that
perfect.
movie. Like,
But
can't deny that.
So do you understand how the distribution is massive for that? Every girl thinks she's hot,
right?
Or every guy thinks she's hot. But for dudes, there's no like universal. Even if you were like, does every girl in here think that Brad Pitt is handsome? They'd all say yes. How many of you guys would have sex with him tonight? About half of them would be like no, or three-fourths of them would be like no. If you're like, hey, how many of you guys want to have sex with Jessica, like 22-year-old Jessica Alba? 100% of the guys would say yes. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? That's the difference I'm trying to make you. We don't need comfort. If we see an attractive woman, we just don't need comfort. Is it better if you're in love with someone? Of course it's better. But my point is, being in love with someone is what makes it awesome. And having sex is awesome, but they don't have to be the same thing. Because you can have, as a man, have an incredible threesome with some girls that you meet in fucking Jamaica, and then that's also awesome. That's an incredible experience.
Really specific.
Tulum. Sorry. Am I telling on myself? I don't have sex, so I don't know. I'm different street. I'm on Sesame Street. I'm not on the same street. All right, cool. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about monogamy. And then the other thing is that I thought was really interesting about you is that the girls who do, so you talked about the professional videos, and then you talked about doing with your iPhone, and then I see a lot of girls. My best friend is CJ Sparks, and she does a lot of photos with no makeup, and they do better because they have no makeup.
I talked about that too. Yes, that's what I said. Like, my fans are so loyal, I think, because they know they're getting the real me. If I take a video and I have a pimple, like I do right now, I have a pimple on my face, or I'm like walking around and I trip and I fall in the middle of the video and I'm laughing, I'm like, send it. I don't care what, the more stuff that is chaos like in your video, like send it, because the better it's gonna turn out. It seems so genuine, it's so authentic. Rather than like guys don't want to feel like they're flipping through a Playboy magazine. So you don't want to be too perfect. It's boring. It
is interesting. So managing a strip club, that's one of the things I noticed. I always thought the prettiest girls would make the most money, and it was the girls that were the most relatable.
Yeah.
They ended up making the most money.
And you ever like, and girls say it to me all the time. They'll be like, well, I want to start an OnlyFans, this is that, and they'll like show me some girl. Like, she's not even that cute. I don't know how many times I've heard that statement come out of other girls' mouths. She's not even that cute. I'm like, I promise you, she's got other shit she's offering.
Yeah.
Like you might not think she's that cute, but she did something, and that just made her 10 times hotter.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, the girlfriend experience. That's something like...
And I get that compliment on my page all the time, too. They're like, I think your personality makes you so much more attractive, so much more just your personality. It's because I don't give a fuck.
Yes. Well, that's one thing I noticed about you on that bus ride in Jamaica. You definitely do not give a fuck.
Yeah. My thing. I have it tattooed on me.
Yeah? Is that what it says?
Diga.
Oh, there you go. There, nice, nice. Okay, what do you have coming up in the future? Do you have anything planned? You said you want to start a YouTube. What do you plan on doing?
Yeah, I just because Instagram and TikTok are like limiting us so hardcore right now. I'm trying to reach out to other avenues to have more traffic pushed, and I think I'm kind of not over it, but like with Instagram, like there's no personality there. I don't know how many times people meet me in person. They're like, you're way cooler in person than I thought you were. You're so much nicer. Like, I thought you were a bitch, or I thought you were this. And I was like, I can't get my personality across my pictures on Instagram. So I try to story a lot, but like YouTube, I feel like I could get a whole personality across. And plus my life is 10 times crazier than people even know about.
Oh no, they know now. They know now.
No, but it still is, but like all positive stuff now. And I would love for people to see that. I would love to just like have those memories documented. So I was trying to do YouTube. I'm getting into real estate investing. I'm getting heavy. I'm actually buying a house this week in Scottsdale. I'm really excited about. Yeah. And just, I don't know. I want to start doing other stuff. Like OnlyFans is pumping up a lot of like opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise, but I'm kind of ready to switch over and be done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome, man. You're going to get a bunch of clips from this. This is what a lot of girls, like a lot of times why I do have girls that work on OnlyFans come on this podcast is because you get to learn things that obviously they wouldn't know because like you said about Instagram. This content though, the 15-second clips or the 90-second clips of a podcast, for whatever reason, Instagram and TikTok love the shit out of these. Okay. Anytime it's if they see the microphone, the algorithm's like, oh, it's a microphone, it's a podcast. They promote the shit out of it. That's why No Jumper can get away with shit. Saying shit that you can't, that these other girls can't do because they see the microphone. So it's a different algorithm that they're going by. I noticed that as soon as I changed my TikTok to podcast, no problems ever. Never. And it's the same girls saying the same shit. And some of them are even dressed in a different environment. Yeah. And it just changes everything. So that's the way it works. So dude, take as many clips out of this. Swedish Bella, Coffee and Cleavage, they actually took the episode, put it up on their OF.
Okay.
Yeah, they took the whole episode and put it up there. Yeah, it's
I'll
pretty
put it
interesting.
everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll be my first YouTube video.
Listen, I'm awesome. This will be your first YouTube video. Hey, listen, we're really happy to have her. Listen, guys, this is, you know what? One of the reasons why I want to do this episode is because I knew how cool Brandi was. And if you just, like she said the last point she made, if you look on her Instagram, one of the problems is like we just sexualize, and it's not the girl's fault, it's nobody's fault, but like you just see how pretty they are and you don't see anything else or know that there's anything else. One of the reasons why I want to have this podcast is because of the intellectual curiosity, and I also wanted people to give their side of the story about all kinds of different stuff. I'm having some very controversial individuals come on in the next couple of weeks, and I want to hear their side of the story. And with some of these OnlyFans girls or girls that do modeling in general or whatever, like I want you to see that there's a full-fledged 360-degree personality that's in there. And a lot of times we lose that ability to see that. And when we do that, when we start sexualizing people or just seeing them as objects, then we lose empathy for them. Empathy for the fact that they may be dealing with depression or other things that are going on in their life that we may be able to associate with. So I'm really happy. Dude, this is awesome. This could not have possibly gone better. I'm glad that we had Brandi on here, guys. We have so many more interviews coming your way. Where can we find you, Brandi?
Everywhere. Brandi Andrews on Instagram, and then just go to my bio. All my links are on there.
There you go. All your links for things that you can't even say on Instagram anymore. Instagram's like the abusive boyfriend. If you don't want to make money with me and you can't,
that's why I love it so much.
You can't make money. You can't make money anywhere else. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.